It is now 6 p.m. on April 18th, 2023, and I'm going to call the City of Iowa City formal meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alter.
Here.
Burgess.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Harmson.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Teague.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
All right. Want to welcome everyone in person and those online joining us virtually. Before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge two things that's happening here in our community. One is many of you may have heard that a 20-year-old has gone missing, Christian Martinez, and just wanted to take a moment to send some great thoughts for his recovery. He went missing on Saturday night, April 15th, and so there was a vigil for him at 5 p.m. and sending some thoughts to he and his family at this time. Also wanted to acknowledge the conflict over in Sudan. We know that we have many individuals that live in our community that have loved ones over there. Some are visiting there themselves, and just wanted to also let them know that our thoughts are with them during this time, and wanted to just maybe take a moment of silence to just send out some positive thoughts during these times of conflict. Thank you. We're going to move on to proclamations. Item number 2A is Arab American Heritage Month, and this is going to be read by Councilor Andrew Dunn.
Whereas, for over a century, Arab Americans have been making valuable contributions to virtually every aspect of American society in medicine, law, business, education, technology, government, military service, culture, and whereas, since migrating to America, individuals of Arab descent have shared their rich culture and traditions with neighbors and friends, while also setting fine examples of model citizens and public servants, and whereas they brought with them to America the resilient family values, strong work ethic, dedication to education, and diversity in faith and creed that have added strength to our great democracy, and whereas Arab Americans have also enriched our society by sharing in the entrepreneurial American spirit that makes our nation free and prosperous, and whereas the history of Arab Americans in the United States remains neglected or defaced by misconceptions, bigotry, and anti-Arab hate in the forms of crimes and speech, and whereas Arab American issues such as civil rights abuses, harmful stereotyping, and bullying must be combated in the form of education and awareness, and whereas they join all Americans in the desire to see a peaceful and diverse society where every individual is treated equally and feels safe, and whereas the incredible contributions and heritage of Arab Americans have helped us build a better nation, now therefore I, Andrew Dunn, Councilor of Iowa City, on behalf of Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, announce that Arab American Foundation celebrates the contributions Arab Americans have made to society and hereby announce on the mayor's behalf April 2023 to be Arab American Heritage Month in Iowa City, and encourage our citizens to join us in this special observance. Accepting this proclamation is Bakit from the Sudanese American Community for Services, and Newman Abuisa for ZOA for Arab American Associations.
And we invite you both to come up and speak as well. Yep.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, City Council. We appreciate this recognition. It's thank you very much. It's heartwarming to see a community welcoming Arab Americans, where we have Arab Americans displayed in negative ways elsewhere in this society. I thank you on behalf of the Arab American Institute, and I thank you for the moment of silence for the suffering taking place today and in the last few days in Sudan. And I just want to let everybody know that we are proud that Iowa is the home of the Mother Mosque, the 100-plus-year-old mosque in Cedar Rapids, and welcoming also to the Christian communities, have one of the oldest Orthodox Christian, Antiochian Orthodox Christian churches in Cedar Rapids as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I wish I can say more good words to you, but I don't think I can when my country, people are dying, suffering, and it's a country on a brink of civil war. And I think what you did for us here in Iowa, I hope it extends to our home country. And I think every voice can make a difference to pressure the warring generals to stop the killing, to stop the war, to stop the suffering. Thank you again.
Thank you both. Proclamation 2B is Arbor Day, and this will be read by Councilor Hermson.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the coming of spring produces a renewal of interest in tree planting for beauty, shade, conservation, and many other purposes beneficial to all people, and whereas the observation of Arbor Day has long been characterized by the planting and preservation of trees, and whereas trees in Iowa City beautify our community, increase property values, reduce pollution, lower energy costs, and enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and whereas, because trees absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, having a diverse and healthy tree population constitutes a major part of Iowa City's effort to mitigate against climate change. And whereas, trees can provide natural air conditioning, the evaporation from a single tree can produce the cooling effect of 10 room-size air conditioners operating 20 hours a day. And whereas evergreen trees can be used to reduce wind speed and thus loss of heat from our homes in the winter by as much as 10 to 50%. Now, therefore, I, Sean Harmson, City Councilor, on behalf of Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby proclaim April 28, 2023 to be Arbor Day in Iowa City, and I hereby urge all citizens to participate in tree planting and preservation projects throughout the year. And accepting the award today, I believe, is Julie Seidel Johnson. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd love to get up here and talk about the positive effects of trees, and thank you for all of your support in making it happen. But I want to share the love about some of those the thanks this time. We've recently received a grant from MidAmerican Energy, which we've received several years in a row for tree replanting, but we got a grant from them and from our Iowa Department of Natural Resources as a reforestation grant. And then the biggest kudos go to two groups. First of all, to the Noon Rotary of Iowa City. They have shown up at least 3, if not more, years in a row and done just amazing plantings for us in different areas. When I say show up, they show up with shovels and mulchers and wheelbarrows and actually get active and plant all these trees along with their staff. So it is so very much appreciated. And then finally, the homeowners. Obviously, we're planting a lot of trees on the public grounds. Tree City USA and our growth awards become possible because homeowners and businesses are also planting trees around us. So with big thanks to everyone and your continued support to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Proclamation 2C is Housing Trust Fund Week, and this will be read by Mayor Pro Tem Alter.
Whereas the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County was founded in 2004, and whereas for 19 years the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County has been creating and preserving housing that is affordable, and whereas the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County has committed more than $14 million for housing that is affordable, and whereas more than 1,100 units of housing that is affordable have been created and preserved for residents of Johnson County by the Housing Trust Fund, and whereas the City of Iowa City has provided a substantial amount of the funding for the work accomplished by the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County, And whereas the Housing Trust Fund's Affordable Housing Highlights program will take place on Friday, April 28th at noon at the Health and Human Services Building hosted by the Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition. Now, therefore, I, Megan Alter, Mayor Pro Tem, on behalf of Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby proclaim April 28th to May 4th, 2023 to be Housing Trust Fund Week in Iowa City and encourage residents to learn more about the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County and their mission to promote and support housing that is affordable. And accepting on behalf of the Housing Trust Fund is Simon Andrew.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Council. We really appreciate you doing this proclamation. Again, I'm Simon Andrew. I'm a board member of the Housing Trust Fund of Johnson County. In the past year, the trust fund has allocated $1.8 million for affordable housing projects in Johnson County. The lion's share of those are within the city of Iowa City due to the city's generous funding of the trust fund, and that leveraged $15 million in outside funding for those projects. And again, all but one of those was within the city of Iowa City. There isn't a city council in the state that does as much for affordable housing as you all, and we very much appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Proclamation 2D is Sharon Malheiro Day. Whereas on April 10th, 2023, the state of Iowa and the nation suffered a great loss in the death of Sharon Malheiro. And whereas as a graduate of Drake Law School, who became practicing in 1990, Ms. Malheiro spent her life fighting for LGBTQ plus Iowans, providing uncounted hours of pro bono legal and advocacy work. And whereas beginning by gathering a group who succeeded in passing an anti-discrimination ordinance protecting LGBTQ plus people in the city of Des Moines in 1991, she went on to co-found the statewide nonprofit advocacy organization One Iowa, which ultimately led to her coordinating with national advocacy groups to bring the landmark case Vernon versus Bryan, resulted in Iowa being the third state in the nation to declare same-sex marriage legal. And whereas once that monumental goal was accomplished, she did not rest, but continued to fight for advances in LGBTQ plus healthcare, workplace equity, inclusivity, and leadership, with a more recent focus on resisting discrimination against transgender people in particular. And whereas without Sharon Malheiro, the landscape of LGBTQ plus life in Iowa would be vastly different and certainly far worse than it is today. And whereas although greatly saddened by her death, a new generation of leaders continues on the trail she blazed, inspired by her vision, commitment, and drive to resolutely resist ongoing efforts to harm LGBTQ plus people in Iowa. Now, therefore, I, Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby proclaim April 18, 2023 to be Sharon Malheiro Day in Iowa City and encourage members to celebrate her legacy, to continue her work by advocating for the rights of LGBTQ plus people, and to honor her spirit by fighting oppression whenever and wherever it occurs. And receiving this proclamation via Zoom is Courtney Reyes, who is the Executive Director of One Iowa. And going to welcome Courtney at this time.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Reyes, and I am the Executive Director of One Iowa. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am so honored to be here virtually with you today to accept this award of one of the greatest folks that I've ever had a chance to meet with and have conversations with. And I can assure you that up until Sharon's death just 2 weeks ago, she was plotting with me on the phone of how we could stop the harm at the Iowa legislature. So this was in her blood, and she has driven us to continue on in this fight and to really show up for LGBTQ Iowans, specifically trans Iowans, because they need us now more than ever. So thank you for this. What a great pleasure. I'll be sure to share this with all of her family members. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to items number 3 through 7, which is our consent agenda. Can I get a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Taylor.
Second, Dunn.
Would anyone from the public like to discuss anything that is on our consent agenda, which are items 3 through 7? If so, please come forth. If you are online, please raise your hand. And I see one person online. Welcome, Noah. And also, the time limit is up to 3 minutes. Welcome. Please state your name and city.
Yeah, my name. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Yes. Hello. Yes, my name is Noah. Read a little bit here. Okay. Resolution approving, authorizing, directing the mayor to execute and the city clerk to attest an agreement by and between the city of Iowa City and OPN Architects, Inc. to provide architectural and engineering consultant services for the City Hall Master Plan and Feasibility Study Project. Comment, this agenda item authorizes an agreement to provide consultant services for City Hall Master Plan and Feasibility Study Project. This project is noted in the city's strategic plan and helps ensure the eventual creation of a plan to accommodate physical places needs of city and operations for decades to come. Now, just reading that on your agenda, which everyone there only has a paper agenda, so you go online, they would not know this agenda item estimate the cost $105,000 to pay an outside consultant agency over $100,000 to tell the city the new top. I think it's really disgusting and undemocratic of you to have this over $100,000 taxpayer item that recommend to not even mention how much it costs on this agenda. It's not really, it's just not cost agenda, and putting this on the consent agenda, not allowing discussion to talk about should this be over $100,000 to pay outside consulting firm to give them recommendations on what kind of space they need. Like, it's just really ridiculous to waste over $100,000 to give these architects to tell them you need a new cop station. Not even designing these plans, not even building up new building plans. Not again the fact that we don't need any more. We should close on the current police station because we should be abolishing the police regardless. Why would you be wasting $100, not even having any public comment on this, not even let public know on the agenda that this is what this item is? It's really disgusting. So I would like someone there to explain to me it's okay to have this on the consent agenda. Hello, I asked a question. I would like a response.
This is your opportunity to speak to the council.
Yes, and it's an opportunity for you to fucking answer my question and tell me why you're putting a $100,000 handout to your friends. I'm assuming this is a handout to one of your friends. Otherwise, why else would you put this and not tell the public what it is? Like, you have every other thing, every other item has the price, but this one seemingly doesn't. That's very odd.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address this topic? Please come forth. Seeing no one else for the consent agenda online or in person. Council discussion. Roll call, please.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to accept correspondence for item number 7A?
So moved, Alter.
Second, Burgess.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We're on to item number 8, which is community comment. This is an opportunity for members to come forth on any item that is not on our agenda. And if I can see the hands of individuals that want to speak during this time, okay. We're going to allow 3 minutes per individual, and we will ask that you sign in at the podium unless you have a sticker and you can place it in the basket. Welcome. Please state your name and city you're from.
Jerry Prothero, Iowa City. A growing group of dedicated city park pool enthusiasts has organized to ensure the future aquatic capabilities and communities served by a repaired or renovated outdoor pool at City Park matches what is fully accomplished by the current pool design. We are calling ourselves City Park Pool Back to the Future. Catchy name. Because over 70 years ago, the city of Iowa City and community came together, designed and built a pool that continues to be relevant and inclusive for Iowa City community members. Members of City Park Pool Back to the Future represent a cross-section of community pool users. We're not just lap swimmers. We have water walkers, water polo enthusiasts, swim club members, a few that just like to get in the pool and then enjoy the sun afterwards. Some have a passion for 50-meter lap swimming. Some have a really strong preference for 25-yard swimming. We have grandparents that are now bringing their grandchildren to the pool themselves that they grew up loving. At the same time, the same group members, City Park Pool Back to the Future, that I just mentioned, have different opinions on what would be acceptable for a future city park pool. There are those in the group with a strong preference for historic preservation. Others that would be happy to see a similar pool but totally redone. And then there's even those that are fine with a brand new design. However, all of us share a common vision. A future city park pool with aquatic capabilities and communities served that at a minimum matches what is fully accomplished by the current pool design. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And if you're wanting to speak, you can just line up and come up to the podium. I'm going to go online to Lolwa. Welcome. And if you're wanting to speak, please stand at the podium and I'll address you. Welcome.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Hi. So my name is Lilwa. I also go by Lou. I'm an Iowa City resident and community member, and I just wanted to comment on the increase in police funding that's going to take place in fiscal year 24. So I have my Master of Public Health. I work at the University of Iowa College of Public Health, and I care just very deeply about the health and well-being of our community. I was present also via Zoom at the last City Council meeting in support of Laura Burgess's proposal, and I noticed that there were a lot of community members bringing up the fact that they had experienced police violence and felt like they were actually unsafe in the presence of police. And I also saw that more than 40 community members supported the reallocation of police funds to local nonprofits who provide services such as nonviolent de-escalation, food, housing, and healthcare to the community. The American Public Health Association has also echoed these sentiments. They've cited law enforcement violence as a public health issue, and they've recommended that federal, state, tribal, and local authorities implement community-based alternatives to addressing harms and preventing trauma. I really believe that moving forward, enacting these recommended strategies would really show that you're listening to the concerns of the people you represent and the advice of national health experts. It would also allow you to illustrate some of the values that the council listed in their strategic plan, because by reallocating funds for policing and carceral systems into community-led initiatives that work to meet the basic needs of vulnerable populations, you'd be highlighting a community you would be highlighting a commitment to racial equity, social justice, and human rights. And you would also be investing in the formation of new partnerships and the nurturing of current partnerships with community organizations that center the community's needs and perspectives. I want to end my comment by posing these questions to all the City Council members who voted to increase the police budget. Firstly, after hearing so much vocal support from community members against the increase, what work are you doing now to ensure that your decision aligns with our community values? Secondly, with so many people ringing alarm bells about police violence or inefficacy and the need for so much more support for so many community needs and organizations, why were you comfortable raising the police budget almost $1 million without a careful and deliberate process, including community input? And finally, you said that the budget for fiscal year 24 was not the right place to be making changes. If that is what you believe, then what is your plan to be ready for the budget in fiscal year 25? I urge you to consider this because next year, community organizations and harm reduction and prevention initiatives will still be in need of more support. Many community members will still be struggling to get their basic needs met, and we will still be showing up to demand that the city truly invest in community health and well-being as opposed to more policing and more carceral systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Sue Prothero. I live in Iowa City. Here's why I'm here. I recently ran across a series of podcasts called What's Happening, created by local developer Gary Watts. On April 4th, Gary interviewed Jeff Fruin. Gary, who swims at City Park, calls the pool a gem. In response, Fruin says the pool is, quote, truly a unique gem here in Iowa City. He goes on to talk about its age and issues and then says, we'll be moving into a design phase because we anticipate the reconstruction of that pool in 2025. We need to find a balance between preserving that unique character while also making sure that we're welcoming all types of swimmers and all types of users of different abilities. Right now, the pool is really fantastic if you are a lap swimmer. For people just becoming swimmers, that pool is not as welcoming. We'll be going through a design process here probably in the next year. I have two concerns. The first is that Fruin has skipped over the first 4 steps in the city's own process spelled out in the RFQ. Those steps are to review data, evaluate the current conditions of the facility, prepare a report of current conditions, and present that report to City Council, letting Council decide whether to renovate or rebuild. This makes me wonder whether city staff truly views the process laid out in the RFQ as simply words on paper, or truly a process created to find the best outdoor pool for our community. My second concern is that both Jeff and Julie Seidel-Johnson are pushing this narrative that City Park Pool isn't welcoming and pitting lap swimmers against other users. While certainly the entrance and the bathhouse have issues, the city's own data does not support the claim that the public finds the pool itself not welcoming, and I, for one, reject that narrative. City Park Pool is a gem, and part of the reason is that the design allows so many groups of users, including non-swimmers, to happily coexist. As we move forward in the repair or replace process, I'd love to see city staff working with the community to arrive at a solution that works for all of us, and maybe stop promoting false narratives that only serve to cause distrust and division. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go online to Hannah, and when we return, we'll go to you. Welcome, Hannah.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and city.
My name is Hannah Zadat. I'm from Iowa City, Iowa.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I am also here to comment on the increase to the police budget that occurred 2 weeks ago. My question to the councilors today is how they plan to move forward after hearing the public is clearly concerned with this increase to the police budget. You heard over 40 public commenters express their concern about approving a budget that allocates over 25% of the general fund budget on police. As public servants, I'm urging you to listen to our community and take real action to stop increasing the police budget and reallocate to other much-needed services like crisis response and housing, to just list a few things. And And since I was cut off last time, we were all cut off last time because we only had 1 minute. I just want to reiterate the experience that I shared last time when I was working as a crisis counselor, talking to folks experiencing crisis. The police were never a helpful addition. The answer was never crisis response working with police. It was commonplace for the folks that I was working with to hesitate sharing that they were in crisis because they were worried that I was going to call the police. I think there's like a common saying that you can gauge how good a policy is by how it impacts the most marginalized members of our community. And if we want to know how it impacts them, we should listen to them. And I also want to reiterate that as we reject the egregious state legislation that's threatening the lives of trans and other queer people, I urge counselors to understand the critical connection between fighting for trans lives and allocating money away from the police. If the city is going to take action to protect trans people, that means allocating money to the services that trans and queer people need. Police is not that service. So again, I'm asking that the City Council move forward and take real action addressing these concerns and allocate money away from the police. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Micah Covington, and I live here in Iowa City. And so I'm speaking today as a resident of Iowa City, but also as the president of Next Generation of Cystinosis. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are run by and for adults living with cystinosis, a rare disease. And our organization works to support adults living with the disease, educate the public, including medical field, and advocate for the needs of those living with cystinosis. So I am here to ask the council to, again, host a meeting about the budget, the police budget. I have a unique perspective on this because people living with rare diseases such as I rely on Social Security disability. With that, we can't afford to really live in spaces that are accessible and accommodate our needs. I was just going through this myself and had to move into a different place because it wasn't accessible for me to have peritoneal dialysis. And so my recommendation and the organization's recommendation is we move more of the funds from the police budget over to establishing more affordable housing that is accessible to people, with disabilities and rare diseases. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yep, welcome.
Greetings, Council. My name is David Sterling, and I'm a resident of Iowa City. I'm following up from the dialogue at the last meeting that we had regarding the police budget. I'd like to address the councilors' expressed desires for more data on how to redistribute police funding. I'll begin by providing this item. The Iowa City Community School District could provide universal pre-K with the funds from the 4/4/23 Police Department budget increase from 2 weeks ago. The funding that Iowa City Community School District requested was $5,000 less than what was given to the police. The vast majority of crime has been traced to people experiencing precarious conditions. We often call this the struggle. The police do not educate children in the absence of daycare, nor save parents money on said care. They do not give parents extra time in their day to get a headlight fixed, one that they might be given a citation for. They will never give parents much needed time to guide their older children away from dangerous behavior. Reuters reported a multi-criminologist's review of 60 studies on policing. This empirically proved there is no valid link between crime prevention and the size of a police force. In the requests for citizens to provide more data and input, I must ask Council to lay out what input and data is missing. If there is a piece missing from this puzzle, it is not apparent to the community you serve. Councilor Burgess provided a wealth of empirical data from experts in the blog that she shared with you all. I ask you to each share your thoughts on that data and its sufficiency. If you are unsure, I urge you to add experts on these matters as advisors in future sessions regarding the budget. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Tristan Bracewell. I live in Iowa City. I'd also like to revisit the dialogue that we had at the last city council meeting around the 2024 fiscal year budget and the increase in police funding. I know a lot of you said that you felt that Laura Burgess's amendment was rushed and that you needed to see more data. So similar to what David said, I guess I just want to ask, did you all read Laura's blog? Because there's a lot of data in there. So I'm not sure, again, what data points you're looking for that are missing. Maybe you just disagree with some of that data. But another data point from there that I like to bring up is that 40% of city budget is fire and police. In our strategic plan for the city of Iowa City, it's mandated to work with relevant nonprofits on crime prevention, and that's only 0.4%. So I'm not great at math, but that's, I think, 100 times more spent on fire and police than on working with the relevant nonprofits, which seems a little excessive. Councilman Alter mentioned, quote here, that you felt the 45 people that spoke at the last meeting in favor of Laura Burgess's amendment were maybe not representative of the whole community. And a lot of you mentioned we need to get feedback from everyone. So I guess I want to know, what's your plan to get that feedback, and who are the relevant people you want feedback from? Have you asked perspectives from some of these nonprofit partners, from harm reduction experts, crisis counselors? Because I know we, the citizens of Iowa City, gave a pretty overwhelming opinion on increasing the police budget, but that didn't really seem to have any sway on the way you voted. As far as I can tell, the only sources of input you brought up that you're listening to are the police department itself and Jeff Fruin, which is great. But I would love to hear how you plan to get perspectives from other people that have stakes in this as well. And I have a little bit of time left, so I'm just going to hit. I know Noah spoke earlier on an item on the agenda here, but I wanted to make sure everyone got a chance to hear that. I couldn't hear it from back there. Yeah, there was an item on the consent agenda for $105,000 to a consultant to look into relocating the police department into its own building so they have more space. And that number, that receipt, is not on the agenda that's provided to us, the citizens, so that did feel a little strange to have that hidden in there, and you guys voted on it real quickly there. So I'd just wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to hear his point there. And I'm going to yield the rest of my time, but thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Beth Beasley. I'm a lifelong resident of Iowa City, and I use all 3 of our public pools. With my experience using all 3 of the public pools in my childhood and in my adulthood, and bringing my children to all 3 of these pools, as they've aged, I understand they need maintenance. So I know you're preparing to do that, and I would like to make sure that you're aware of all the positive pool activities that go on at the City Park pool, because I know that's your first, the first piece that you're going to address in the pool updates, or whatever you want to call them, the facilities planning. But when we look at City Park Pool, there's shallow water that's available for exploration, for young people, for people just to sit about in, and for play. I remember my children doing alligators in there particularly. We have a medium depth for play, walking, aerobics, swimming lessons, laps. Medium depth, I kind of think that that's a big play section as well. And then there's deep water diving. We have that gorgeous, super tall diving board and the water to allow people to jump off of it. It's also a confidence building tool when teaching swimming. The deep water is. And when it's a long lap, we can do our 50-meter laps including that deep water. The pool size and design allows for this 50-meter lap swimming and also could host competitions. When I look at City Park Pool, I love the trees, I love the grassy areas and the concrete areas that allow lounging and gathering and visiting in them as they are already. If renovation is needed, I really recommend or hope that you will consider the whole 3-pool system and maybe not just putting everything of interest into the one pool at City Park, maybe spreading things out. You know, some of the things that I saw on the plan I thought might be good to help revitalize the outdoor area at Mercer Park and to revitalize the indoor area at Robert A. Lee. Think broadly. I thank you for your time. And that's it.
Thank you. Welcome. State your name and city, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Riley Einen-Lynch from Iowa City. First of all, I just want to say thanks for your time and patience. I know you're in a position of immense responsibility and complexity. I'm trying to do my part as a citizen in building neighborhood strength through community engagement and building social bonds between neighbors and doing different things to help our neighborhoods be stronger. And one of the latest things we focused on was the vote on the entire budget, but specifically the $1 million for police or not last week. And I thought this might not be visible to y'all. In my little pocket that I engaged with, we did a lot of research and we held discussions and we met with counselors and we met with the chief of police. We debated amongst ourselves and carefully decided, how best to act and how to represent ourselves. And I was personally disappointed that you voted to increase the police budget, but again, I know that things are complicated. The bigger picture I want to talk about is that all these people did this work to try to get engaged, and the reaction we got was it did not feel like we were particularly well heard. Not that you have to vote our way or we won't feel heard, but the statements from the various counselors that voted to increase the budget, after all, didn't feel like they were addressing the points that we felt we had carefully researched. And so on the meta level of how do we engage with city councilors, I think we thought that we were doing a good way to do it, and it feels now, especially coming in to see that some of the, excuse me, this is just a frog in my throat, I'm not sick. I'm disappointed not to see the discussion that was promised mentioned on the agenda yet, or to see responses or follow-up yet. And I understand that many of you said it was sort of too fast for fiscal year 24. My main question is, can you help us see how we should participate so that for fiscal year 25, it won't be too late to either accept the data and the research and the alternatives that we're all trying to bring, or to understand more about why you think those alternatives are not good solutions, so that we can move forward together, but not feel like we're just sort of harassing and annoying you and then being ignored, which I don't think you intend to do. I think you do tons of work to listen. But I know it's hard to understand how the other side feels, so I sort of, not to make it a two-sides thing, but I just want to represent all the work that people are doing to try to communicate with you and let you know that right now it's not feeling like that worked, and I would like help meeting you in the middle. Thanks.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Keen Zimet from Iowa City. Hi, Council. I'm speaking as a student and resident of Iowa City and not for the undergraduate student government. As you've probably seen in the news, an extreme right-wing student-run ideology group is hosting a conservative commentator and self-proclaimed transphobic speaker, Matt Walsh, at the university tomorrow night. The rhetoric that he promotes is detrimental to the safety and lives of the trans and LGBTQ plus community, people in our community. This hate speech should not be tolerated anywhere on our campus or in the greater Iowa City area. I would like to reaffirm that silence is compliance, and hate speech in any format should not be allowed to fester in our community. As a council, I urge you to take a strong stance against the transphobic rhetoric entering our community, and I invite you to join the protest with students in the community at Hubbard Park from 4 to 8 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Who controls that clock? I'm curious. Oh, it's you. Okay. Now that I've distracted you, I got an extra second there.
Name and city, please.
I want to remind, my name is Brandon Ross. I want to remind people that there was a meeting on April 4th. There was a tornado that night, and basically the citizens were shut out of the meeting. However, the counselors and the management were here, and the meeting was held. Those who wanted to be in had to use Zoom and were just given last-minute notifications. So during a very important meeting where the budget was going on, the people were shut out. I've been in meetings at the city council where we all were, a tornado, in the basement or somewhere in the back there. I got stuck with any number of counselors wanting to tell me stories about baseball, their life stories and things, but we all made it. Anyway, so I don't think you should do that again. One or the other, postpone the meeting, don't sacrifice our counselors to tornadoes and other natural and unnatural disasters would be a good idea. My point here is not unrelated to what has already been spoken about. I would like to bring up that in 2019, Jimmy Carter, anyone here remember Jimmy Carter, was speaking with Donald Trump. Anyone here remember Donald Trump? Choose not to remember him. But anyway, this is not a joke. He was speaking with Donald Trump, and he said to Donald Trump, he said, "Why is it that you're so against China and against other countries, but China was of interest. Russia was in there, other countries." And he said to Donald Trump, he said, since I was president, Jimmy Carter was president 1976 to 1980, he said, since I've been president, we've been at war in the United States, bombing people, overturning governments, attacking, invading, consistently. We've never not been bombing somebody. Jimmy Carter said to Donald Trump, do you know how many countries that China has attacked in that time since I was president? And the answer is 0. China has attacked 0 countries. Malcolm X said when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, it was a harsh comment, but we know where it comes from. He said, the chickens are coming home to roost. We live in a violent country, a militarized country, and a policed country. And what goes on overseas, which is horrifying, comes back home. So sacrificing homeless people and working class people for a larger police force, I think is a bad idea. And I think that should be reconsidered. Laura Burgess, thank you so much for your work in this area.
Thank you. We're going to go online to Noah. Welcome.
I'm going to have to ask Lily if she can do it. My names have disappeared, so.
No, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Wonderful. I would just like to thank you for the last meeting, just really laying bare for everybody how much you truly have so much disdain for the community, and you really don't care what the community says. You've already made up your decision, whatever the hell you want, which is the police budget. You have a mass showing people wanting to speak, and Bruce, doing what you do best, you limit people's ability to comment to 1 minute, cutting people off, people talking about the trauma, brutality faced by ICPD, and you obviously don't care about that. So you cut them off when they're speaking and then give them another $1 million as a, here you go, please go do more brutality in the community. This isn't just you, Bruce, it's the rest, it's all 6 of you that voted to increase the budget by $1 million. And Sorry, I lost my train of thought. It's really revealing to me that a landlord mayor would tell me that we can't do anything for housing, but we can spend a quarter of our budget on policing. It really makes you think that, it's kind of odd. We can spend a quarter of our budget on a paramilitary force that realizes, surveils, harasses, terrorizes our community, does nothing to help our housed community, but we can't spend any money on housing. We just got to work with private partners while spending a quarter of the budget on the force that committed war crimes against its people. Because gassing is banned by the Geneva Convention because they realize, wow, this is a really terrible thing to do to people. So they banned it. And yet, I see people, you know what? See, we see people here saying no to white supremacy, no to police brutality. You know what we're going to do? Let's gas the living shit out of them. There's an ambulance coming because someone's having a medical emergency. Send them some more gas. You have on video camera hearing cops saying, yeah, let them eat gas. Among others, just laughing. It's like, I really love gassing these guys. These guys said, no, let's give them some gas. Let's spray them, let's beat them, let's shoot them with rubber bullets. And how is Iowa City Council ICPD since then? The budget year after year now, giving them $1 million budget increase. No, it just.
Thank you.
It's sad.
All right. We're going to end our public comment time. Thanks to everyone that has come forth. We're going to move on to item number 9, which is planning and zoning matters. 9A is rezoning J.J.R. Davis 2nd Edition and J.J.R. Davis 4th Edition subdivisions located between Mormon Track Boulevard and Dane Road Southeast. Ordinance rezoning approximately 13 acres of property located within the J.J.R. Davis 2nd Edition and J.J.R. Davis 4th Edition subdivisions in between Mormon Track Boulevard and Dane Road Southeast from commercial zone, office zone to intensive commercial zone. And I'm going to open up the public hearing. And I know that our staff gave us a presentation at our earlier meeting, 4/4/23. I don't know if you have any additional information. Any questions by council to staff? Seeing none, and the applicant, developer, any comments by? Yes, welcome. Dave Larson, is that your name?
I hope so.
All right, welcome.
John, Dane, and I were partners, and we created where the first Menards building went. I don't know if you know where that is or where that was. That's where Procter & Gamble is now located, and we developed that. After we got done with that, we started up and started to get interested in his farm up by his house there. So let's see here if we can work this correctly. Oh, you see what I'm showing then, okay. Can you guys see it okay?
Yes.
So, yeah, that's great. So George and John are brothers, and John Dane's house, they built their houses. John's to the north and George is to the south. And you can see the view here in John's house or in George's house, overlooking the airport runway. And then also looking downtown, you can see the downtown also from this side. So the view from John's house and George's house is to the north, northeast, east, southeast, and south. And that's where the view is. And I'll show you later on kind of the elevations of that in just a second. So let's go to the beginning here. And I'll go to page 3, maybe. Where is it, Ashley? How to get back to page 3?
Page 3. If you can just tab 3.
Oh, okay.
So that's page 3 right there.
That's page 3, okay. So here in the beginning, before Mormon Trek came through, George's house and his property was to the west. John's property was to the east. And then when Mormon Trek came through, George did not want to develop the land. John did. So what they did was they did a flip or an exchange. And let's see if I can get to the exchange here. There we go. So then John took the south part along Mormon Trek, and then George took the east part of his house there. So that was his 17 acres, and then John had the other 20-some acres. But included in John's 20 acres was this very steep hill, which is right there to the east of George's property. So from the beginning, back before Mormon Trek was created, John did want to develop the property. And if you look up above there, where the rezone is being taken, there's a line there, and that's the old fence row between John Dane and the Davis family. Okay? And the Davis family owned all the land to the south. And then John owned over here and north of that fence row. And so John does own, or his family now owns, everything north of that old fence line. And they are in favor of this zoning back where it was. So that kind of gives you that flavor. Let's switch again. So here's topography of how steep that hill to the east of John's property, and I've sat there at the picnic table and whiled away 2 or 3 hours easy, watching planes going, landing, and watching the downtown there. It's a beautiful view, and I hope George's property is converted to a park. It'd be perfect. It's a beautiful view. So we're very much in favor of that. During the construction of Mormon Trek, they had to dig down at least 20 feet of dirt. And so that left 20 feet on the east side and 20 feet on the west side. So all that dirt was moved over to the Menard site, the new Menard site. And that's how we got rid of all that dirt. It was huge, 400,000 cubic yards. So that's what prepared this way, and Mormon Trek is a beltway. And you guys probably already know that eventually will go over and connect with Scott Boulevard. So McAllister is part of that, and we'll continue on through. Here's a closer view. So George's house sits around 750 feet above sea level. And if you go to the east, that's around 670 feet above sea level. So there's a drop there of around 70 feet to the east. To the west, there is still a drop there of about 18 feet. So George's house does sit on a hill on both sides of that. So. So our initial zone was CI1, and so that whole area, if we go backwards, let's see here. Yes. Where the purple, there. Well, you can see it there. So all of that CI1, it was all zone CI1. But then PIP Printing came along and wanted a lot. And so the city said that they wouldn't fit in the CI1 zone. So we had to go in and change the zone from CI1 to CO so that PIP could fit there. So since then, back in 2013, there was an ordinance that was made. Let's see here. Right there. It's going to be hard to read, but it was in your packet. Hopefully you had an opportunity to read it. And I can mention some of that. So this ordinance was created, and into CI1 zone became part of it CC2. So what we have here, they encouraged, the city council encouraged the establishment of this ordinance. They wanted to see more variety in that CI1 zone. So CC2 came along, where you can have eating establishments, drinking establishments, banking, you could have banking, dental offices, personal service-oriented retail, hospitality, sales-oriented retail, religious and private group assembly. So it was a wide variety of things, and as a result of that, that CI1 zone became probably one of the top commercial zones to have because it lended so much flexibility. And it was really pretty awesome that they came up with this plan that really encouraged people to come and purchase property there. As Pip will probably tell you, he's been there since, I think, 2007. During that period of time, nobody except for the university was going to put a clinic there. And since then, nobody has purchased the office zone. Office zone's been kind of hit due to the COVID thing, and people are now working at home. So if the city wants to recoup some of the money it's spending on that extension of Mormon Trek all the way over, one of the ways to do that is to get this back to where that land can bring in some really amazing prospects, and they're of a wide variety there. You can still even have office there, so you're not changing. So what it amounts to, CI1 is actually 3 zones. CC2, CI1, and CCO, or excuse me, CO1. So you can, so it's like I said, it's one of the better zones out there. So we don't feel we're in conflict with the park. We would encourage and love to have a park there. The people that work there currently are always out at noon walking that area, and it would provide an awesome area to go and eat your lunch. I hope it happens sooner than later. I don't know the timetable on that, if it's tomorrow or if it's 30, 40 years from now. It needs to be there. And we also had a potential client, let's see an item, whoop, back one, right there. We had a potential client that was going in just to the west of where the telephone tower and George Dane's house is. And one of the things that the city staff and the council recommended is that we put a row of pine trees and trees all along there, so it acts kind of as a buffer between the commercial or the CI1 and their house. So that is another possibility that would help promote the CI1 zone there. I think, though, the CI1 zone probably, the intensive use of a CI1 zone probably would be less likely than maybe the CC2 because of the cost. The cost of the land is getting a little higher above what you would use it in a CI1 zone, like Menards. They paid $3.50 a square foot over there. Whereas this is a lot higher than that. So it would only allow maybe some people that can afford it more. So anyway, I encourage the use. I'll repeat it again. I think it's probably one of the best commercial zones, and it would not be offensive. Like there are opportunities to create downward lighting, as is in place in the Billion Auto area. This isn't necessarily going to be an auto area, even though the Billion company is currently the Mormon Trek Properties, the people that have the offer on this land and going in for the rezoning. But the Billion Auto is being taken over by another private individual, and that individual's investment criteria are different than the Billion family. They're encouraging, they want to get into more real estate development, like shopping strip centers and so forth. So we'll see. But I think I encourage you guys to look at the financial facts. It's necessary, and that we encourage and would love to have that park there. So, any questions? Did I go over my 3 minutes?
I do have a couple of questions for you.
Sure, Sean.
You said that you and John Dane were partners for a long time, and you were partners during the time when they did sort of the swap of land for development when Mormon Trek came in? During that time period? You guys were partners then, too?
Yeah.
Okay. My question...
We owned some property in there together, actually.
Oh, okay. My question is, looking at the, in fact, the screens you have up here, this CI1 to the south and southwest of the George Dane property, when that was switched around and made CI1, was there any pushback at that time to the existing CI1 that's in that the south and southwest?
Yes, the same situation that exists today.
Okay.
Same George Dane's family has always wanted to, like George in the beginning, when John and George traded properties, they didn't want to be part of the development. They didn't want to develop their land. John did. And so at that time, they expressed their concerns that they didn't want. And, but it still went through to CI1. So that hasn't changed over the last 20 approximately years. They still have that same feeling towards development. So,
thank you.
Seeing no other questions, thank you.
Yep.
All right, would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please step to the podium. There is a sign-in sheet there. There is also some stickers in the back that you can sign in. I want to see how many individuals want to speak to this topic. If I can have a show of hands. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 2 online. Okay, so I'm going to keep it at 3 minutes if no one else joins in. If someone else joins in, I am going to drop the time down at that point. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please state your name and city.
My name is Timothy Huey, and I'm from Davenport. I was here at April 4th, and I was here for your 4 o'clock work session with the Planning Commission, and I think you have an excellent process here by which you review rezonings and allow full consideration of all the issues. I want to speak to your comprehensive plan and your South Central District plan for the airport. I think those both are excellent examples of documents to help you make judgments like this. And a comprehensive plan always addresses conflicting issues, and it's up to your Planning Commission and a City Council to determine where the preponderance lies in that. And I would submit that you have a unique situation here, a unique situation both because of the lay of the land, that this is a high knoll that overlooks, as has been said, a 360-degree view of the area. And you also have a unique ownership situation here. If land is over $3 a square foot, you can do the math on what 17 plus acres is worth, and you have a family here that has dedicated that to the public, and so their concerns about the rezoning of this land to an intensive commercial isn't related to their economic benefit, it's related to the benefit of the community. And so I think that's a very unique situation, and I'll let others speak to the irrevocable trust, the legal mechanism that's set up to ensure that that does become a park at some point in the future. And all they're asking for is for you to look at your comp plan, look at good planning, and have that transition. And yes, you can buffer with arborvitae, evergreen trees along the edges of commercial property. But by very name, intensive commercial indicates that the use is more intensive than the office commercial. And so if you go from the intensive commercial there on the south and west side of Mormon Trek Boulevard, and then on the east side, that office commercial allows that transition to the park and open space. You have a unique area here where you have the airport and the fairgrounds, you have single-family development, you have agricultural, but you have intense commercial, you have industrial. So you have to look at how can you protect this park, and that's what the Dane Family Trust is asking for. They're not asking you to take anything away from the current landowner. I don't think anything has changed since 2007 when they established the current zoning, and I realize that's the recommendation of your Planning Commission, and from what they said to you, they had valid reasons for that. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go online to Noah. Welcome. And those that are wanting to speak, I do ask that you join in a line, please. We're going to go to Larry. Noah took his hand down. Welcome, Larry. Online.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome. State your name and city, please.
My name is Larry Ellingson. I'm from Iowa City. I've had the privilege of knowing Jane and the Dane family, and I've been out to their property. Sometimes I wonder if all the commissioners have been there, because one was implying you couldn't see to the west. Well, you can. This is a pristine property. One of the reasons I came to Iowa City was because of the parks. My very first home was on Oakcrest and Holt, 3 houses away from City Park. My 3rd grade daughter, when I arrived at this community, and I and my wife used that park every single day for every single season. And this property is going to be superior to that when it becomes a park. I truly believe it will become a park. I know George's plans, and I know what he intended. And I'm very concerned. I have been out there at nighttime. I have looked. And, you know, I understand that the city is trying to make the lights so that they're as positive as they can be, but they aren't. I mean, I hope any of you have been out there. Go out there and see what it does. It takes away the ambiance of the beauty of that land. There is no other park in any community around us that has the beauty that that land has. You know, you can just see so far in so many directions. The beauty is tough, and I'm very concerned that if we go to the CI1, that beauty will be taken away. You know, when you look around, you see commercial properties. The city park that I live by, they never had that happen, and I don't think the city would allow it. And this is a gift to the city that I think should be used as it was planned to be used. We can still have houses be built around it. In its current rating, I don't think it needs to change. That's just my honest opinion from someone that's been there day, night, and other times and has seen the beauty and loves parks. That's one of the 3 things that brought myself and my family to this community. And I thank you for your time, and I have definitely opposed changing the scenario. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Rod Zittler, Iowa City. I'm here to speak against the zoning change. Thank you for having me, Mayor and council members. I want to talk about the opportunity to plan ahead. The future park needs to be designated on the city's and county's comprehensive and master planning documents. Informed and intentional decisions are made when planning for future designated areas, whether they be schools, libraries, fire station, waterways, or parks. Creating transitions and buffering spaces between uses is wise and thoughtful community planning. Thoughtful foresight of city leaders and planners will benefit this community and keep future generations from wondering, what were we thinking of when we did this? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to welcome Noah online.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Okay. I'm also going to urge you to not change this zoning. What the previous speaker is saying is to make this parks promote health, safety, well-being for all of the community, and much better to have more parks. I mean, whenever you have an opportunity to have more parks, that's just a pretty simple thing. That yes, that's what we should be doing. We should be those are good for the community. That promotes the common good. That's good for everybody, not capitalists to get a profit off of land that should be public land that everyone gets to enjoy, rather than just a couple people making money. Yes, turn this into a park, not some commercial whatever. I mean, if you care about climate change and the local ecology and the environment, having more parks helps reduce pollution, helps capture more carbon, having more plants. Good, parks are good. Have more parks, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is George Rickey. I'm from Iowa City, and I'm here to vote against the rezoning request. And I'll start out with a passage from a song from a group that was just here a couple weeks ago, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. I want to stand upon a rock and watch the river flow with the blue sky above me and the valley down below. I want to hold my head up high and listen to the wind, because when it's gone, it won't be back again. The topography of the area is just absolutely exceptional. I've been there. I've been able to see the cupola at City High from there. George Dane has left the city with a beautiful blank canvas that you can develop as you see fit. As a park, with its potential myriad of uses, it is a far more beneficial use than being encroached by commercial concrete and encapsulation. And it's aesthetics. People will come to a beautiful park. They may not come to a park if it's surrounded and encapsulated by massive commercial development. So in closing, and here's the aesthetics point of view, it is a critical factor, which is the very reason why you do not see the Mona Lisa displayed next to a hot dog cart. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome. And if you're seated and just waiting for your turn, just raise your hand so I'll be sure to call you up. Okay, great.
My name is Dan Teed. I signed in earlier. I own the Pip Printing Company up in the corner up there and also the building. We moved in there in 2007. The city changed that from CI1 to CO1 so we would fit in. And since 2007, with that CO1 zoning, no other company has bought a lot. There's been no buildings built up there. And this is a part of Iowa City I think has been underdeveloped for a long time. Changing the zoning to CI1 would encourage development, would also add a lot of business to that side of Iowa City. Why leave that area undeveloped? As one of the first purchasers of a lot in that area, we would approve a zoning change from CO1 to CI1. That change would encourage that part of Iowa City to be developed. If the zoning is not changed, this area may sit vacant for years, since it has since 2007, and that is not good for the city or the community. So as one of the first people up there to buy one of the lots, we would encourage a zoning change, which I think would be good for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Tig and members of the City Council. My name is Dennis Mitchell. I'm a trust officer at Midwest One Bank. We are trustee of the George Dane Family Trust. And my goal here today is just to focus on a couple of items, and hopefully the documents that we've submitted have made this clear. But the land, the 17 acres that's adjacent to the area to be rezoned, will eventually become a park. That part is not endowed under Mr. Dane's family trust agreement. There is the ability for certain family members to live there for a period of time, but that period will likely expire sooner than later. Other than the current occupant, none of the other family members that would qualify have indicated an interest to live there. So we do anticipate this land being donated for a park sooner than later. The other thing I just wanted to clarify, although the land is technically donated to the Iowa National Heritage Foundation, a condition of that gift is that the land be made available to the city for a park. So the only reason it would not be a City of Iowa City park in the future is if the city declined it for some reason. So we do not anticipate that happening. We just don't think, the one thing I would respectfully disagree with Susan Craig on is there is a view of this adjacent property. It's a good view, and I think having a more intensive, potentially commercial use there as opposed to, say, an office use is going to impact that park and the enjoyment of that park going forward. So. Be happy to answer any questions, but otherwise, I do appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you. Welcome, and there is a sign-in sheet unless you have a, yep, great, thank you. If you put your name in the basket, you're good.
Good evening, Bob Dane. I've addressed you before, back again. Quick couple points from the work session earlier today. The council was correct in that the city will never own the park, but neither was it to remain in the family. Dad did this on purpose. As a trust officer for over 30 years, while paying attention to city governments and the university foundations around him, this was the best way to preserve the Dane family park. Having a third party, Midwest One in this case, manage this part of his estate and its transfer to the Iowa Heritage Trust Foundation would ensure that the control of these 17 acres would not be lost as part of a property settlement in a divorce, nor would these plans for this park be changed by a 4-3 vote by some future city council where it might be subdivided and the quality forever gone from public access. It is also true that the Danes are on both sides of this issue. I completely understand why my cousins are party to this request. The location and the size of their acreage is such that the best way to market it is to be part of a larger sale. I would also point out that sometime in the late 40s or 50s, our grandfather split his businesses and the farmland between my dad and Uncle John. It is true that the majority of the land-related decisions were in concert, but that does not mean that all would, should, or could be. One of the best like land for like land that preserved control of was the like land swap that they did to preserve control of the east of Dad's house down over the hill into what, so that also would be part of the Dane family park, thus preventing buildings rising from the lower farm blocking the view to the east. If he had anticipated the expansion of Mormon Trek and future zoning issues, he might have done more to the west. I did approach my cousins about purchasing the Dane acres. I was told that it was not possible as they are currently under contract pending this zoning request. This is why we have been addressing this current zoning change and the future of a car dealership upon it. The applicant only builds car dealerships, as we have, I added some more stuff tonight, sorry. And we have, for the south and west, also opposed when it became a CI1. A tree buffer, as anticipated by Dave on the southwest kind, will grow. I spent the last 2 summers removing trees along the southeast fence that had grown tall enough to block the view to the fairgrounds. This will happen with any buffer they add in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and city, please.
Good evening. I'm Jane Driscoll. I live in Iowa City, and I am the eldest grandchild of George and Marjorie Dane. I thought I would start with, what would George say? What would he say in his own words? Some people would reminisce when he would say 77 years ago, because for 30 years he recited the Gettysburg Address at the Memorial Day services at Oakland and Memory Gardens cemeteries. But we're not talking about that today. We are, and this is a quote, here to visit with you about a piece of high ground southwest of the airport and east of Dane Road. At some future time, it will become a city park, unquote. From a 1999 letter to City Council and I believe the Parks and Rec, quoting, it is interesting that there are many laws, rules, and regulations for the protection of wetlands, historic sites from the past, and the habitat of endangered species. Economic factors tend to preserve and protect from dislocation established commercial enterprises. But there is little designed to protect and preserve locales from which the beauty of nature can be observed and enjoyed. Perhaps this is because Iowa has so many scenic beauty areas. However, these are fast disappearing. There are few in and around Iowa City where the beauty of our river valley can still be enjoyed. The beauty of the landscape is a gift from our Creator The opportunity to enjoy it was our gift from Harold and Ethel Dane, and they had the foresight to acquire it almost 100 years ago and pass it on for us to enjoy. That it can still be enjoyed is due to the fact that neither Harold or Ethel or we have succumbed to the plays of developers. If we were interested in the quick buck, this would already be subdivided and have a bunch of houses on it. It never seemed right that this gift of beauty and the gift of its enjoyment should be converted to personal economic gain. Not all inheritances have to be in dollars. It seems to us that the best inheritance we could pass on to our grandchildren and all those who follow would be the continued opportunity to enjoy this place of beauty. Some of the concerns we express are more for the benefit of those who will follow in the future and not for ourselves. We know that the Indians enjoyed this area because of the arrowheads his youngest son picked up in the fields south of the home. We feel a responsibility to try and preserve and protect these things, similar sites on the hills in and around Iowa.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and city, please.
Thanks. My name is Steve Ballard. I live in Johnson County, and I'm here with my law partner, Alp Zora. We're with the Left Law Firm, and we were asked to help the George Dane Family Trust explain to the city and put information together to explain why this rezoning request is a bad idea. This is a done deal. This park, this land, this 17 and a half acres is going to be a park. George, you've heard a lot about George Dane. He's a remarkable man. That's not why the council should deny this rezoning request. His brother, John Dane, was a remarkable man. John's wife, Allegra Dane, was a remarkable woman, and George's wife, Marjorie, was a remarkable woman. They were all remarkable people. They were all supremely dedicated to others in their communities. You couldn't go to a war memorial, a veterans memorial, any service in Johnson County since the time I've been here, which is 33 years, and not see John Dane, George Dane, Bob Dane. So these people are committed to community and to selfless giving to others. The point in describing who George Dane was is to explain the care with which he went about ensuring that this land would be a park. As his son Bob said, George had been around. He was a trust officer. He had seen foundations. Okay, he had seen what happens when land gets conveyed someplace for a particular purpose, and then things change. And years roll by, and the recipient of that land, whether it's the city of Iowa City or Johnson County or somebody else, says, you know, really, we should not have it be a park anymore. We should sell it. We should develop it. We should put a fire station there, okay? And that's within that owner's right to do, right? The reason that organizations such as the Burr Oak Land Trust exist, the reason that such organizations as the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation exist, is to create an entity, a thing, that will be there forever to own this land and make sure it's a park. And first thing that George Dane said in his trust is, make it a park forever. And the second thing he said was, go to Iowa City and find out if Iowa City wants to have a say in developing the park, managing the park. And the third thing he said was, there's income that derives from this trust, and a portion of that income will go to maintain and protect this park. You don't get a do-over, all right? If the council rezones and property develops commercial intensive, you can't take it back, all right? A tree buffer just isn't as good as the buffer that we're asking that will be there if you deny the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks to everyone that commented on this item. I am going to close the public hearing. Could I give a motion to give first consideration?
So moved, Burgess. Second, Alter.
Council discussion.
Well, I'll start then, if no one else is going to jump in, because first I'd like to thank the Dane family for the tremendous gift of land. I mean, it's just remarkable that a family would do something like this, and it's just not seen very often. Mr. Dane's vision for the land was for it to become a park that everyone could enjoy. Parks are a major part of this city. I commend Parks Director Julie Seidel-Johnson for the work that she does. Her plate is full, and that plate is a big plate. That was apparent when I looked over the long list of the parks and recreation areas we have in our city. What I saw on this list is that less than half of our parks have this amount of acreage, and they are not bordered in any way by intensive commercial zones. When determining adjoining landscape to a park, consideration should be taken as to what would be compatible with a park, and not have adjacent neighbors that can potentially contribute to light and noise pollution that would compromise the peace and tranquility of a park setting. It's been mentioned that lighting can be made to move downward so that it's not so offensive and bright. I have to say that I live to the north of this property, less than a mile away, in a lovely neighborhood. Iowa City's very hilly. My home kind of sits up on a hill. I look out my back door, and I can see the bright lights from those car dealerships. I know that's where it's coming from, and it's very bright, still very bright, and that's like a mile away to the north. So I can't imagine what it would be like in that closer vicinity. Our strategic plan calls for us as a city to provide high-quality open space for members of our community. You can't find much more high quality than this space, as has been mentioned. And it would be a shame to taint this beautiful vista with intensive commercial growth. CO1 zoning would be more appropriate and compatible, and why I believe that the current CO1 zoning should be maintained.
There's just a few things that I want to make sure we're focusing on as we have this discussion, because we've heard some really compelling comments, and thank you so much to all the family members and everyone who has such a vested interest in the property adjacent to the property that we're talking about. So I heard a lot of this land, this property, this park will be a park. The land that's proposed to be a park is not in the city limits and is not the property that we're talking about today. And so there is, one portion of one side of that proposed parkland that abuts the property that we're talking about today. And then there are much larger portions along the south and on the southwest corner that are already zoned to the requested zoning. So I just want to make sure that we're understanding. We're not talking about taking away a park. We're not talking about zoning property that would be proposed to be a park into intensive commercial. We're talking about property that is already zoned commercial and the use of that land, not the George Dane Trust land. And I think that's really important. And when I think about that, there's a few different things that come to my mind, which is how deliberate I understand George Dane was in his planning and understanding of what that property that is the 17-some acres, not the 13 acres that we're looking at, that's up for rezoning. And I think he understood, and we all need to understand, that locking property into a particular use is done through the mechanisms that he used to do that. So he owned it, and he had a very strategic and intentional plan as to how it would be used in the future and how it could be conveyed in the future. The property that we're talking about is not subject to that plan. And I think, it's the phrase that Sarah Barron has said to us a few times that's always in my head, which is property rights end at property lines. And to the extent that they don't, we have regulations to govern that. So a neighbor can't cause a nuisance to an adjoining property owner. We have regulations relating to that. Since the time that George Dane made the plan for for his property, which is, again, outside of city limits. We also have adopted sensitive area ordinance, which addresses the use of those areas that might be sensitive slopes or woodlands or wetlands. I rode my bike all around this proposed, the land that's proposed to be rezoned. It is turf grass primarily. It is very far down, the hill where the cell tower is. That's George Dane's land. And I really believe that the vistas that everyone has spoken so compellingly to are to the north, towards the airport, towards the river, towards the east, towards downtown, which is northeast. And if you are on the George Dane property and looking towards this property, what you see is car dealerships that are already there. And I think the other thing about the park and the impact of the lighting, if it becomes a city park, our parks tend to close at dusk. So there wouldn't be public use after dark that would be infringed by adjoining uses. So this is not an easy decision. There's obviously a lot of incredible legacy and concern and care for the area, and I really appreciate the family history that we got about two brothers who had very different ideas about this land. But I really think that having an adjacent property owner along one edge sort of veto a use that otherwise appears to be fully compliant with our comp plan and our zoning code just wouldn't be the right call.
Let's jump right out there.
I have gone back and forth on this. I can't even count how many times. And so I've really sat with this. And I think the really unfortunate thing in my mind, because I came up at the invitation of the family, got to see all of the land and the vistas, the views are amazing. But it is also true, they are up high, and I think that when this becomes a park, those views are going to remain spectacular. I do agree with Councilor Burgess that when you look out, and I'm so directionally challenged, but when you look towards the car dealerships, you see the car dealerships, right? I mean, that's not particularly one of the higher points of the park, and the Dane family even noted that with that development, that was unfortunate, right? But you can still see an amazing sunset. Where I've been trying to work through what the responsibilities of a counselor are, and how we have to view this. My sense of this was, if not, what would George do? Someone spoke to this to say, what were we thinking when, right? And I thought I knew that answer. But one of the tough decisions of being a counselor is having to weigh so many different facets. And I am very mindful of the fact and appreciate so much the thoughtfulness and the expertise that George Dane brought to make sure that this is going to be a park. But as Councilor Burgess says, also, we're not talking about the land that will become a park. It is the land that's abutting it, and it is a sliver that is not zoned consistently with the rest of the land that is also lower in its on the hill. And so I think I have a different answer than I thought I would have to what's the answer to what was council thinking 20 years from now, that question. And I think it is that we need to balance a lot of different considerations, and rezoning it creates more flexibility for opportunities for development that I would hope, in honesty, do not become a car dealership. I realize that's who owns it. But I was thinking, God, how amazing would it be? It's zoned, if rezoned, it could be for restaurants and other businesses that would actually be a really nice attraction for a park, next to a park. Now, I don't know that that's going to be the case, but looking at all of the criteria of what we can go by to make a decision that's not just about, unfortunately, how do we feel about this, but what are we compelled to use as our metrics for making a decision. It hurts me, but I have to go with rezoning it.
I also want to thank the members of the Dane family for the kind invitation to come out and see the property, and was able to make that happen on a beautiful sunny afternoon. Not one of the ones where we were getting winter 2.0, so that was a nice bonus. And it is a beautiful property, and there is a beautiful view there. I know when we were standing out there close to the apple orchard, I believe it was, which is just not too far away from the cell tower, and looking out, and if you look straight to the north, you can see that they aren't kidding. You can see the straight to the north. You can see things like the Children's Hospital, some of the hospital complex. Looking off to the right, I think we could see the general direction of some of the city laid out. Off to the east, there was that nice hill coming down towards that sort of wooded area and some of the John Dane farmland. And we could even see the tops of the buildings from the Johnson County Fairgrounds. But one of the things that have to point out and notice that all of those things are not the direction of this proposed property change, which is one of the things that one of the many things that jump out at me. And the fact this is going to be a park someday is great. The fact that it's going to be preserved for that is an amazing testament to George Dane and his foresight and planning, and to his family, who every single one of them who I spoke with is 100% on board and adamant of making this into what George Dane wanted to have. I didn't have the privilege of meeting George, but clearly he made an impression on many, many people, friends and family alike, and that speaks so well. But looking at this, one of the things too, and I believe Councilor Burgess mentioned this, and Councilor Alter too, was just kind of looking at the existing property and what's around it, and looking at, for the proposed property that we're talking about changing, has about 200 feet or so of that is sort of the boundary that shares with the George Dane property. At the same time, there's already this intensive, the CI1 zoning is around 1,500 feet of already shared border. So what, in terms of like what the border and what's bordering and right next to and neighboring, it's a small fraction compared to what's already there. And the fact that really the best view is the airport, looking out to the city high is actually not in that direction. Standing there by that apple orchard and looking out over the proposed change property, those fields are prairie, they're prairie, but they are grass, turf grass, I think somebody called it. And then the view that way is, that direction is existing car lots, Highway 1, the traffic there, and the commercial areas that are across the highway. So the McDonald's and I don't know, some of the other businesses that are already there. So I think I'm going to have to find myself sort of coming down on the side of council members Burgess and Alter. That when I weigh all of this together, it's a very tough decision. It's one that I've also spent a lot of time with. But I also see that it's sort of, so that was the amount of the boundary on the fact that these things were zoned originally. CI1, and they changed only to make accommodations for PIP printings because of the way the zoning classifications were broken out at that time. So I will probably have to vote that way as well, but not an easy decision and not one that I took lightly.
Well, usually on land use issues, I'm among the first, but I did want to listen to some of the comments that I have heard tonight, as well as from those of you who presented to us and with your comments. You know, I certainly support the vision of the park. Beautiful high ground. I toured the property, and the fact that George Dane and family have elected to preserve that in open space was a grand gesture. What I've been concerned with is, and I think the whole question is of the zoning, the CI versus the CI1 versus the commercial office. It does seem to me a bit of a, you know, it's a concentration of commercial development. The intention behind the CI1 zone was to try to better diversify what the options might be, in part due to the fact that the commercial office didn't seem to be moving. And with that CI-1 zoning, and looking at the language in the zoning code, it did refer to the fact that special attention must be directed toward buffering the negative aspects of allowed uses from adjacent residential zones, and I would include in that regard, public space. And in looking at the history of the rezoning in this general area, what I saw consistently was the emphasis on the use of visual buffers to begin to mitigate the negative impacts on the Dane property in this case. There is also concern about the impacts of the buffers on Mormon Trek itself, which is a major corridor through the area. But in our instance here, it's about the future park. And what I'm concerned about is that with the way this is being submitted to the council, is that we're doing this rezoning in the abstract, so to speak. We're not seeing a specific project associated with the rezoning. And so with that being the case, it's extremely difficult to understand how we would use buffering to address any negative impacts because we don't have a project. And so, you know, a tool we would have, the buffering, it's very difficult to predict how one would, as a condition on this rezoning, try to identify or articulate what that buffering would be. So what I would like to suggest to the council is considering how we might incorporate the question of how to not simply leave this as an administrative process. I'm really interested in maintaining a sense of public engagement through this effort. And so what I would like to suggest to the council to consider would be as a condition on this rezoning, which, as I understand it right now, there are no conditions, would be that we would require that a site plan depicting the proposal, whatever that might be, would require the review and approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. Because it's really, as I said, it's an abstract rezoning as we were doing without a project attached to it, makes articulating as a condition the buffering element is extremely difficult. But I'm hoping that in this way, with staff's involvement at the administrative level and then further public review subsequent to that, that we would continue to engage the public in this process and also have an opportunity to evaluate the effectiveness of the buffer as proposed by staff. So that would be my suggestion as we consider doing a a condition on this project so that we address the fact that there is no project associated with the rezoning right now. I've been around. Mike Hench talked about in the work session how long he's been around. I've been around for a while, too. I was on planning and zoning when the billion auto showroom was developed. We saw where it was initially proposed in the slides, and then it was eventually relocated in the current location. That went through rezoning with conditions. We saw the site plan, just as we saw the site plan for its original location. We don't have that opportunity with this rezoning, so I'm asking council to see if we couldn't incorporate it as a condition, having that opportunity to see a site plan developed after staff has gone through the administrative review.
I wonder if our city attorney could address that, and I want to make sure that I understand your proposal. You're proposing that if this is approved, approve it with a condition to require a site plan that would show the proposal. So if I can have the city attorney.
Certainly. Councilor Thomas did speak to me shortly before the work session about this possibility, and we had some discussion. And my answer to him was that probably the best vehicle for that is, of course, the site plan itself, which includes codified standards for screening for dumpsters and storage and loading and unloading areas and traffic circulation. It's a pretty comprehensive ordinance with requirements and so forth. And I think that that's probably, well, I told Councilor Thomas, and I remain of the belief that that's the best vehicle for that. Of course, Councilor Thomas is suggesting that, or proposing that that be approved, not just at the administrative level, but at the planning and zoning and council level. Currently, the code differentiates between minor site plans and major site plans. Any site plan with more than 12 residential units, obviously not applicable here, or more than 10,000 square feet of commercial space would require a major site plan review. If either the Neighborhood Development Services Director or owners of 20% of the property within 200 feet of the rezoned property were to request it, then planning and zoning approval would be required for the site plan. My answer to Councilor Thomas was that there was probably a way we could make that work. That is that we could probably impose a condition such as requiring planning and zoning and council approval for the site plan. My hesitations are several-fold. One is that normally any conditions for the conditional zoning agreement are included in the conditional zoning agreement, which needs to be signed before the conclusion of the public hearing. That hearing is now closed. I apologize to Councilor Thomas that I did not think of the timing of when he would raise this issue with council. That said, certainly our office would do its best to impose that requirement if it is the will of the majority of council members. And if we're not able to do that on a strict basis, certainly the sense of council could be passed on to staff as they do their administrative review, and or you could suggest strongly that the Neighborhood Development Services Director would request the major site plan review, as I mentioned before. I think that's probably the options that are available to us. The only other hesitation I have about doing it in that fashion is presently this is a requested rezoning that does not have a project attached. There are a number of, the surrounding properties to the south and southeast don't have a project attached either. They're already zoned CI1. That happens all the time. It doesn't have to be the case that there's a specific project that's brought forth. I think it would be inappropriate for this council to do anything to suggest that a rezoning cannot and will not move forward for this property unless there is a specific project put forth. And so my hesitation is I'm not sure when when planning and zoning, or when council would reconsider the zoning, or unless maybe I misunderstand. If the idea is we would go ahead and approve the zoning tonight, subject to that requirement, then I'm back to my earlier answer. Our office would do the best we could to impose that requirement at this point, and certainly take the sense of council with us to the administrative level.
When you say what you just said,
There's a lot. I'm sorry.
With the sentiment, no, thank you. With the sense that staff would carry out their administrative work with the understanding or with the strong sentiment of council that this is the type that we would like to see.
Sure.
Does that mean at some point then it would go through P&Z and back to council? Or is it simply that staff now understands that council strongly prefers that as much as possible these additional, the site plan would be desired?
Well, of course, the site plan doesn't come forth until there's an actual project.
Right.
And so presumably at that point, when there's an actual project before you, the site plan would be developed, and it would go, through the normal administrative procedures. But again, if the sense of council is that you wish to make sure that the Neighborhood Development Services imposes a major site plan review standards, that would then require that the site plan go through planning and zoning. It would still not go through council, to be clear. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Do I understand correctly, Eric, that there's some discretion as far as the major site plan review and triggering that on staff's part, or it's only with that square footage threshold for a commercial?
Well, there's two things. There's whether it's a major or minor site plan, there's not discretion there. It's either at least 12 residential units or at least 10,000 square feet of commercial space. But from there, let's assume it makes that threshold, and now it's a major site plan. From there is discretion. The discretion is twofold. One, the discretion on the part of the Neighborhood Development Services Director, who can just say yay or nay. I think it should go to planning and zoning. And the second part, of course, is the objection petition, if you will, that if neighbors who own at least 20% of the property within 200 feet, they can require it by bringing forth a petition.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Question for you. What constitutes commercial space if this were to be whatever conditionally or however we might go about this? What constitutes that in the case of like it's a car lot or something like that? Would the lot itself be? Is it the whole footprint of the building? Is it what's inside?
No, I believe it's the footprint of the building. And to be clear, it's currently zoned commercial, and we're rezoning applications for a different flavor of commercial. So, I mean, whatever is going to be built there is going to be commercial. It's just how many square feet of commercial space, not the lot area, the built space.
Sure.
I might suggest if the council is going to go down this path, this would be unusual. I understand what is trying to be accomplished here, but the site plan review is a fairly technical process. That it's you're doing the policy work here, and then the site plan review is more on the technical side. If you'd like, staff, I could put Danielle on the spot and talk about how we review site plans and the types of things that we look for. Because what I don't want to happen is for you to go down this path and not exactly know what that site plan review is going to look like for either you or the Planning and Zoning Commission. Because when that's presented to you, you're going to have those same technical standards to review it against. And I don't want to create a false, idea of what that site plan review might look like. So we'll only do it if you want it, but we can have staff talk to you about site plan reviews and what that looks like, if it would be helpful for you.
Thank you, Jeff. Danielle Sitzman, Neighborhood and Development Services Coordinator. So in the previous presentation, I did walk through what site development standards are regulated and are included in Chapter 5.
Title 18-3-2 Design Standards.
Sure. And those include off-street parking, so the design and configuration of off-street parking. The sign code is actually part of site development standards. Access management is regulated by those standards, so that would be where access to the site is allowed off of public streets, so driveways. Intersection visibility, so making sure that intersections of streets are clear of obstructions so that traffic flow is safe. Landscaping and trees. Screening and buffering, which is accomplished both through landscape and hardscape materials, so there are different degrees of screening and buffering required based on different features of the site. They're not linked to the zoning district, they're linked directly to the use of the site proposed. And that would be on a spectrum of lower growing shrubs with more opacity to higher growing shrubs with less views through them, to even use of walls above a certain height to screen undesirable views of those features of the site. Typically, those are vehicles and screening views of vehicles from pedestrians in the public way, but it also does come into play when there's storage of outdoor materials. Outdoor lighting is another standard in the site development standards. That is broken out somewhat in our code by zoning district, so it's a slightly different number of lumens allowed per acre, I believe, is the unit of measurement used in that section. There's some performance standards, which are mostly about industrial uses, so vibration, noise, odors, things that might be negative byproducts of an industrial process. Then our sensitive areas ordinance is part of our site development standards, so all of those features like stream corridors, floodplains, wetlands, prairie remnants, steep slopes are regulated through the sensitive areas review. Floodplain management and all of the things that go with that are also in site development standards, and then requirements for neighborhood open space are included in that section. Those sections are very prescriptive, so we are given as staff the direction as the imposition of that code and what to enforce. And when we get a site plan review, we go through each and every one of those things very meticulously and make sure that the site plans are in conformance with that. It's not uncommon for a site plan to go through multiple rounds of reviews to make sure that the design of those things are fully in compliance with our code. So that's conducted by urban planning staff. It's a rotating duty, so any one of my staff might be given a site plan at some point to review. So that's how that works.
One point I would add is, again, because there's no project presently before you, and I'm not sure when one would come, if council were to approve this, is that those standards that Danielle just mentioned and so forth, as I mentioned, are codified and so forth. And if the council is of the belief that those standards are insufficient in any way, as Danielle mentioned, they already address exterior lighting, and some of the language they mentioned is that they want to be able to maintain adequate security while preventing a nuisance or hardship to adjacent properties or streets. Staff is already thinking about those things, in addition to screening for equipment and storage and loading and parking and transportation and so forth. If council is of the belief that there should be different standards for site plan review or different site plan designs, council can change it, by going through the normal ordinance amendment process, and could likely do so well ahead of any project if that's council's desire.
This has been tremendous information. I guess I would just put this out, thanks, to my fellow counselors that it sounds, and I appreciated hearing that these are very prescriptive in actuality, and staff who's been trained on doing this to look for it would be, whoever's up on the rotation would go through that, and that there's multiple, like you said, oftentimes there's multiple iterations of doing this. My general concern to the rest of council would be, while Eric said that we could change it if we felt that we needed to, the rabbit hole or rabbit warren that getting into this kind of work when we are not trained to do it does concern me. I think it can be done with the best of intentions, and I think that we are here to oversee how are we going to be best stewards of policy and of the city in general. But if our intention is to really roll up our sleeves and get involved in changing things, that's where I'm a little bit like, I think it would make sense if it was in a very focused way for a very particular project that we don't know yet, and that it would also be in relation to understanding what's the best way to have whatever project would come before us in relation to this park. To do it simply because we think that we know better would be problematic. So I'm just sort of throwing that out there.
Well, one thing I would say is, Eric mentioned, I did speak with him before our meeting, and, and Danielle just gave a fairly thorough description of the type of review. One of the concerns I have is with this project, in addition to the fact that the buffer is still a concern to me, is that the type of buffer that may be appropriate here would need to reflect the more rural scale of this setting, and that, as she described them, some of the buffering elements that we typically review are more of an urban nature, not so much a setting where you're talking about a different scale of environment and a different set of issues that you're facing in terms of, in this case, preserving and buffering negative impacts and promoting and preserving the view shed that you have there. So it's kind of a different context in which to understand buffering. So I do think there would be, as Eric said, a kind of an opportunity here to at least evaluate our site review process to anticipating that there are situations where these sorts of issues will come up, and that our current standards, may not address them effectively.
There's one piece about this location that I also just want to make sure we're thinking about, which is it's so close to the intersection of Highway 1 and 218. I mean, it's like really on the interchange, and I appreciate what you're saying about the difference in like the rural versus urban, but I think we've really committed a very long time ago to this being commercial property at a very heavily trafficked interchange, and then the investment of pushing Mormon Trek and then McAllister through is for the purpose of development. And I think, it's I just worry that we're going to nitpick to the point that real estate never develops, and we have to. I think that's kind of what we're seeing with that CO zone if we're unwilling to make it more flexible. And I want us to be real in the context of our budget discussion last meeting about our revenue challenges and I don't want us to go down the path of disincentivizing development because of that adjacent use when we have mechanisms to address that interface.
I wanted to allow Councilor Thomas to go first before me, because I knew that this question was going to come up about the rezoning or this, thought process that I just mentioned. And so first I want to say to the family that allowed us to come, Mayor Pro Tem and I, to the property and see it, it's absolutely gorgeous. To be on the land, to look across it in every direction was phenomenal. Excited to, further discussions about this being a park. Beautiful, and I don't want to take that away. And thanks to George Dane and what he thought would be great for the Iowa City community. I have to say that he hit the nail on the head with this location as one of a kind. I've heard all of my fellow counselors talk about this. I think the biggest challenge that I've had throughout this process is being on that land and looking all around and not knowing exactly what a proposal is for this property. And I looked at I look at the CI1 and as well as the CO1, what is permitted, what needs special exceptions, and all of that. But when I do walk away and I look at, what's surrounding this property, which is CI1, I have to agree with some of the other counselors begrudgingly that this is, something that is a part of our comp plan. It makes sense for this to be a CI1. What is that buffering going to be? That still has to be determined. I know through the site plan that staff is skilled to do that work, and so begrudgingly, I do support this because of the facts of our comp plan and our zoning ordinance. And I think when we're talking about what is the big scope here, when this park is going to be closed after dusk, some of the lighting concerns, I hear that, I understand that. But I'm going to vote for this, and I do want to say thanks to all of the family members and all of the supporters that came out to express your concern and your thoughts. I did hear you, and I do understand the love. I get it. I get the love for this property. And to all the people that reached out, that show that the Dane family has really made a mark on this community. And I think that this park, when it does become a park, that love and that vision that George Dane had will definitely live on and be enjoyed by every member of this community.
I think I'll just close out my comments. I don't want to beat a dead horse or say anything that's already been said. Acknowledging the fact that we have a tremendous opportunity here in our community for a public park is something that I don't really take lightly. I have visited the property. I've spoken with the Danes on both sides of this issue, and I'm also counting the votes here. I waited until the end to try to figure out where the council would go, on the issue, and I find myself in the position where I do support more public process in this decision, more so what Councillor Thomas is proposing, being that we at this point cannot, if I'm understanding this correctly, impose conditions on the rezoning at this point. I think that there is a vested public interest in being able to have some conditions on this particular property that we're looking at, not the future park property, but the one that we're actually rezoning. I think that there is a public interest, given what I see as an eventuality in this case. So I would support the kind of public input process that Councillor Thomas is proposing. I think it makes sense given the extremely unique situation and difficult decision that we're presented with today, as well as the fact that there are 4 votes to rezone, so we should do something that gets us the best situation for everyone. That's, I think, ultimately our collective goal and our charge here. So my personal advocacy is if we can include more public process in a potential project proposal, as Councillor Thomas is discussing.
And I think, if I understood it correctly, we've already passed the point of requiring a condition, but, and our attorney could correct me, we can state to our staff to express our overall intentions for this property, and that be relayed to the developers. So, and personally, I think that that's being delayed to the developers right now. So if you're, I don't know how Councilor Thomas envisioned at this point for the condition to be done, you know, I guess the legal way, that would be for this to be voted down and for this, the P&Z process to start over again.
Let me interject here for just a moment. The hesitancy I would have with the council voting down the rezoning, which of course council can do if it's the council's wish, but the property owners could not then come back with a substantially similar rezoning request because council has already said no, and they can't just kind of keep taking additional bites at the apple. Now, obviously, they could, you know, request a different zoning. I'm not sure what zoning that would be. They could, you know, do some other things, but not many other things. So if council were to vote no now, that would probably be it for taking this back to CI1 zoning.
I guess then I prefer a little bit stronger language. Would we be okay with directing rather than suggesting?
You're talking about directing staff, in this case, the Neighborhood and Development Services Director, to go through the requirements of a major site plan review and taking it to, if it is a major site plan, to go to planning and zoning for approval.
Yes.
Sure.
One thing I'd urge you to keep in mind is your rezoning, the rezoning request is 13 acres. We don't necessarily know how this property may be subdivided down the road, and do you want to have those same requirements on properties that may be fronting Mormon Trek, for example, or north of Grace Drive?
Could staff just let us know if it is subdivided, what the process would be as far as any additional review, like at the platting stage?
Sorry, was the question, what's the remaining development process for this land?
If it was subdivided, since I know there's a number of lots already on the two.
So if it were to be re-subdivided, the only time it would go through a preliminary plat again, which includes the public hearing and would come through P&Z to City Council, would be if there's a major difference in what was previously preliminary platted. You have another agenda item later tonight where that is the case. They're adding public streets in that instance, and so we needed them to go back through the process. So the acceptance of public streets would be acknowledged as part of the intention for development. In this case, it's already a number of commercial lots already served by a street network that's built. So I can't imagine much of a change in a planning process that would necessarily trigger that preliminary plat step. Likely it would just be re-subdivision of something that's already subdivided, and that follows the final plat process, which is just a technical review and paperwork necessary for that. For subdividers agreements, that is typically on a consent agenda, does not go to Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you.
Would it work just to say anything that would be along Dane Road Southeast from Eagleview Drive to Grace Drive? And just, would that be a simple way to just, whether it's subdivided or stays the same?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the premise. I mean, I understand the area you're describing, but
okay,
then what?
If I'm looking now at the Johnson County map there. There is Dane Road Southeast, which runs from Eagleview Drive to Grace Drive, which is essentially the eastern border of the property that's requesting the zoning change. If we were to do something like what Councilor Dunn has proposed, to direct staff for anything that's any development that's on that road, whether it's subdivided into two pieces or all the same piece, as we get further over, like the other side of Grace Drive, right next to Pip Printing, that's even further away from the property, and so I would be probably less. I mean, so if we're just trying to figure out how do we handle this in case they subdivide later, if we were just to say Dane Road, along Dane Road
That's the
That would be
principal frontage, yeah.
the principal frontage with that shares that 200 feet with the George Dane property. That's my thought. I don't know if that gets us, if that's a simple solution or not.
And that would be the property that would go through that planning and zoning. And is
Get
that
the
what you're saying? Yeah.
master review.
Got it.
Of site planner. Does that make sense?
Certainly, we could do that if that's the will of council. The only hesitation I have about that is that might rely somewhat on institutional memory. So if this development comes 9 years from now and we don't remember, apologies in advance. But of course, a lot of other things would probably happen between now and then too. But we'll certainly do our best.
I mean, be okay with that direction being given? Just my opinion.
Yeah.
What? No. Can someone clarify what that direction would be?
Well, let me see if I can recap and correct me if I'm wrong. The indication is if there's a property that comes forth for a site plan review and it borders Dane Road Southeast, that and it's a major site plan, that the neighborhood services director, neighborhood development services director would request the planning and zoning approval per her authority. Do I? Well, I see some quizzical looks. Maybe I didn't get that quite right.
I think that's.
Oh, I did.
I think that's right.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Are there like implications if this is forgotten or doesn't happen? I mean, I'm kind of uncomfortable with the idea that we're saying, hey,
let me
Danielle doesn't do this, then.
Understood. Let me be clear.
9 years from now, we do this all over again.
Tracy Haichu is the Neighborhood Development Services, so it would be she and not Daniel who's in trouble. No, I mean, to be clear, we're talking about a sense of the council. We're not talking about, an explicit, conditional zoning agreement that's going to be enforceable down the road and so forth. You just have to trust staff that we're going to do what you ask us because that's our job. We do what you ask us to do.
I believe that is your job, whether we direct you explicitly or
Right.
not. So
That's my point.
I'm comfortable either way because I don't think it makes a practical difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so are we ready for votes, or do you need something?
Well, no, just I'm sensing at least 4 people who are in support of this idea. I pause to make sure that I see enough. Yes. So yeah, that's all we need for that part of it. And now I think we're back to the underlying vote for the rezoning.
All right. We're going to go ahead and do roll call, please.
Taylor,
No.
Teague,
Yes?
Thomas,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1. Could I get a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved. Done.
Second, Harmson.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 9B, vacation and conveyance of right-of-way. Ordinance vacating approximately 5,129 square feet of the Grand Avenue Court, public right-of-way, and authorizing conveyance to the Board of Regents, State of Iowa, for the use and benefit of the University of Iowa. And this is the second consideration, and staff is requesting expedited action. Expedited action. Oh.
Oh. Sleeping on the job. No. I have the paper right here. I move that the rule requiring that ordinance must be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Second.
Moved by Taylor, seconded by Dunn. And anyone like to discuss this topic, please raise your hand if you're online, and come forth in the audience if you're here. Seeing no one, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Teague,
Yes?
Thomas,
Yes.
Alter,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Harmson,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to pass and adopt?
Moved.
Seconded.
Moved by Dunn, seconded by Burgess. Roll call, please.
Thomas?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Item 9C, preliminary plat, Western Home GPD of Iowa City. Resolution approving the preliminary plat of the Western Home GPD of Iowa City, a re-subdivision of Outlet A of St. Andrew Presbyterian Church, Part 1, Iowa City, Iowa. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Alter.
Second, Taylor.
And welcome, Danielle, once
If I
again.
can just interject real quickly, previously I've recused myself from these matters because our church was in the process of selling one of these lots. We have now closed on that lot, and I don't believe I'm conflicted any longer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Danielle Sitzman, Neighborhood and Development Services. As you've indicated, this is a preliminary plat application tonight before you for land shown here in the white outline. This is for a rezoning, I'm sorry, not a rezoning, this is a platting of a area to include 35 single-family homes, 8 duplexes, 38 multifamily units, 20 townhome-style units, one assisted living building with approximately 32 beds. Also included in the proposal reviewed at rezoning was a neighborhood commercial use. The subject property this is the preliminary plat for the subject property. What you might recall seeing previously as part of the rezoning, which included a planned development overlay, was the overlay showing the housing units. It's nicely color-coded here, so I wanted to show this just to remind you of the variety of housing types proposed. This is the plat that fulfills that plan by drawing the lot lines. There are 3 lots essentially in this development to incorporate all of those housing types. Lot 1 is inside the loop. It's approximately 7 acres. Includes single-family duplex and multifamily with that neighborhood commercial component. Lot 2 is above the loop. It's about 15.5 acres. It includes single-family and multifamily. Lot 3 is the southwest corner here. It's 4 acres and includes townhomes and assisted living and memory care. Then there is an outlot, Outlot Z, which contains a turnaround cul-de-sac for that loop street system. It does show that street network as well. That street network will be public streets. And when we review preliminary plats, we have a series of criteria that we review, including compliance with the comprehensive plan, although that was done also at rezoning, compliance with any conditions that were placed at that rezoning, and compliance with all of the subdivision code regulations that are applicable. So as I mentioned, comprehensive plan was already evaluated at rezoning. The proposed development is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. When looking at the conditional zoning agreement, oftentimes conditions are to be fulfilled in the future, and so not necessarily would be satisfied at the time of preliminary plat. That is the case here. There's some fees to be paid, which will need to be satisfied before the issuance of building permits. Also, a condition that needs to be satisfied with the final plat. So we will continue to monitor and ensure that those are performed as necessary. So otherwise, the preliminary plat meets the applicable requirements at this time. We also review, as I said, a variety of the subdivision standards that apply to the property. The preliminary plat does substantially match the previously reviewed and approved preliminary plan development overlay that I showed you with the color coding, and preliminary sensitive areas development plan, which was also reviewed. The preliminary plat does satisfy the necessary subdivision design standards of Chapter 15 of the city's code. So this slide shows you where we're at in the development process overall. The step that we're at is highlighted in blue. So the previous rezoning was performed. This is the preliminary plat that comes to you through the Planning and Zoning Commission. There would be a necessary final plat to be filed, usually, again, only come to City Council at consent. And then staff takes over for site plan reviews and review of the final sensitive areas development plans at site plan. And then the issuance of building permits in compliance with the building code. So based on a review of the relevant criteria and subdivision code, staff did recommend approval of this preliminary plat with no additional conditions. At their April 5th, 2023 meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission concurred with staff's opinion and voted 7-0 to also recommend approval. I'm happy to answer questions.
Seeing no questions, thank you. Would the developers or the applicant like to give any comments? Hello, welcome.
Hello, Steve Long, Iowa City with Salida Partners, representing Western Home Independent Living Services from Cedar Falls. We've been working on this year and a half, I can't remember now. We're excited to bring this community, as Danielle said, a mixed-use community to Iowa City. I've been involved with Western Home most of my life, having grown up in Cedar Falls, despite being in Iowa City for a long time now. I won't say how many years. But Mike Welch is here from Welch Development Design, civil engineer, if you have any specific questions. And I also apologize, Chris Hansen and Pat O'Leary from Western Home. We're here for about a little over 2 hours with us in the lobby, but they ended up heading back to Cedar Falls. So just open for any questions.
Great. Seeing none. All right. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? Seeing no one in person or online, council discussion.
I just want to reiterate that I'm really excited for this project. I think it's going to bring a lot to the community and really provide an excellent service to our seniors.
Yeah, I would concur. I often speak about projects that I think, or I hope will serve as a model. And I do think this is pointing, in that direction in terms of if we're thinking about diversity of housing types, site plans that do create a sort of have a coherence to them, create, in this case, around what looks like to be the the water feature there, that's stormwater retention, actually becomes a focal feature within the development. I think this one will certainly be successful, and I hope it will help inform how we site plan for similar projects in the future.
I agree with Councilor Thomas and Dunn. I'm also very excited to see this area develop. The area for this development contains many sensitive features, wetlands, woodlands, stream corridor, and regulated slopes, and it certainly must have posed a challenge to navigate those areas while balancing construction plans and at the same time conserving the habitat. So I commend you for that, because it looks like you really took that to great thought as much as you possibly could. And with its mix of housing, as Councilor Thomas sort of mentioned, the different housing types and uses, it comes close to the missing middle, that concept that some of us on council have been talking about for quite some time, but have yet to see really a development that reflects that. So if this area can be developed with minimal disruption of the habitat in the sensitive areas, then I'm all in favor of it.
Roll call, please.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 9D, preliminary plat Melrose Commercial Park. Resolution approving preliminary plat of Melrose Commercial Park, Subdivision, Iowa City, Iowa. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Done.
Second, Burgess.
And welcome again, Danielle.
Thank you again, Mayor. This is approval of another preliminary plat. The City Council approved a final plat in 2021 for the subject property under a different title. At that point, it was called IWV Commercial Park, which divided the site into 2 lots. Since the approval of the final plat, the owner has chosen to re-subdivide the property in order to incorporate public streets and a total of 8 commercial lots. The replat now includes those public streets and therefore was required to go back through the process of a preliminary plat, including the public comment at Planning and Zoning Commission. Just wanted to show here on the lower part of the screen the previous plat, which was those 2 lots, now showing on the top part of the screen the street network and the 8 lots proposed. Not a great deal of change other than to incorporate those features, anticipating still commercial development in this area.
Again, the criteria that we review as part of a preliminary plat includes compliance with the comprehensive plan, which would have been considered at rezoning as well, compliance with any conditions placed at that rezoning, and compliance with the subdivision code. So this property was found to be, the use found to be in compliance with the comprehensive plan at the time of rezoning. It continues to be considered compliant with the comprehensive plan. There were conditions placed on this property with the conditional zoning agreement at the time of that rezoning. Again, not all the conditions need to be satisfied at this time, so we've evaluated which ones are still pending and we'll track those. One of the conditions that has been satisfied, so it's noted here as well. So the preliminary plat meets the applicable required conditions imposed at the zoning as are relevant at this time. And again, we review the subdivision code requirements when looking at plats for proposed plats that will be fulfilled eventually with the final plat. The preliminary plat substantially matches the previously reviewed and approved plan development overlay and preliminary sensitive areas development plan, which were reviewed at rezoning. And the preliminary plat satisfies the necessary subdivision design standards of Chapter 15. Again, this slide shows the previous development steps. We're kind of redoing some of those last steps with the replatting. So we're doing a preliminary plat again. There will still need to be a final plat to match this preliminary plat. And then again, site plan review for commercial properties, including the final sensitive areas development plan and building permits. So based on a review of the relevant criteria and subdivision code, staff did recommend approval with no additional conditions. And again, at the April 15th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission concurred with staff's opinion and voted 7-0 to also recommend approval. Happy to answer questions.
Was there any, I'm looking at the new subdivisions, and it looks like there's 8 of them as opposed to 2, right?
Right.
So out of curiosity, did the developer, I'm just thinking, why would there be 8 of them rather than, say, I don't know, 3 to accommodate the
I would
the
let
things?
them answer that question. What we understand is that this is closer to their final intended sale of those lots and would be more appropriate for the type of development they're hoping, anticipating. It's probable that at the initial stages with the 2-lot development that not all of those plans were finalized.
Gotcha.
So it's not abnormal to see replatting.
Yeah, no, I just wondered why it went from like 2 to 8, but it's, like I said, curiosity.
Just a quick clarification, Danielle, sorry. Want to make sure I'm understanding the conversation that if there hadn't been the public streets, the change from 2 to 8 wouldn't have come before us?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is the applicant or developer here and want to make any comments? Welcome.
Thank you. John Marner with MMS Consultants representing the developer. To answer your question briefly, I think Danielle did a great job of covering the topics, but to answer your question directly, there's been some interest in the property. This is an effort to provide lots that are of seeming interest to various potential developers for the area. There's a mix of lots. The lots closest to Melrose Avenue, I think, are 3 acres. The lots south of on the southern edge of the property are larger, and then you have the 2 larger lots to the west. The one other thing I'd point out is the sensitive areas that are on the property. There is an existing 350-foot vegetative and noise buffer that was provided through the zoning process, and it's the previously approved preliminary plat. That's maintained with this subdivision layout. You'll notice that the cul-de-sac stopped a little bit short of the south property line. It stops at that 350-foot buffer for that reason. And I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Thank you.
All right, anyone from the public like to address this topic? If you're online, please raise your hand. Seeing no one, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Burgess.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Harmson.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Teague.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Alter.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item number 10A is utility rate public hearing. This is an ordinance amending Title 3 entitled City Finances, Taxation and Fees, Chapter 4 entitled Schedule of Fees, Rates, Charges, Bonds, Fines, and Penalties of the City Code to increase or change charges and fees. I'm going to open the public hearing. And welcome, Jacqueline.
Hey,
Hi, Jacqueline Flagel, Assistant Finance Director. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to go over the utility rate increases approved as part of the FY24 budget. Here you'll see outlined all of the increases that we'll go through. This is all of them laid out. We'll go through each one in more detail on the following slides. And then our final 2 slides will go through what those might look like all put together as part of like a minimum monthly bill. We'll start with the water fund. Again, this was approved as part of the FY24 budget and 3-year financial plan, suggesting a rate increase of 4%, raising the minimum monthly rate from $8.19 to $8.52 per month. This would go into place starting July 1st. We expect that it would generate approximately $400,000 annually to cover increased costs of water treatment products, equipment, and labor. A water increase was last adopted in FY21, but not put into place until FY22. It was delayed because of COVID. And then next slide here, you'll see kind of laid out the projected revenues and expenses for the water fund. The large spike that you see in FY24 corresponds with some large capital projects, being the collector well number 2 cleaning and upgrade. So that's the cause of that large spike. And you see it start to drop off in fiscal year 26 and beyond due to the payoff of some revenue debt there. Moving over to wastewater. Again, approved as part of the FY24 budget, we are suggesting a rate increase of 2%. The minimum monthly rate would go from $8.15 to $8.31 per month. Expecting it to generate approximately $240,000 annually to cover the cost of wastewater treatment products, equipment, and labor. The last increase done for the wastewater rate was done actually in 2009, so quite some time. Again, showing the projected revenues and expenses for wastewater. You'll see the large dip in 24 is due to the payoff of our debt service. So there's no debt service payments in 24, and then we're expecting it to go back up again with the planned issuance of revenue debt in 24 for digester complex rehab and digester gas improvements. So seeing those payments come back on in FY25 going forward. The refuse fund, there are, I believe, 3 rate increases within the refuse fund. The first one being the curbside solid waste rate. They're expecting a rate increase of $1 per dwelling unit per month with the mirrored increase for additional carts. That would take the monthly rate from $13 to $14 per month starting July 1st, expecting to generate approximately $194,000 annually to cover the cost of increased tonnages, cost of fuel, equipment, and labor. The last increase for curbside solid waste was done in FY23. We're doing a similar rate increase for the curbside recycling fee with $1 increase per dwelling unit per month, the rate going from $650 to $750 per month, expecting to generate approximately $190,000 annually to cover those same kind of expenses, the increased tonnages, the cost of fuel, equipment, and labor. Similarly, the last increase was done for FY23 at 50 cents per dwelling unit. The third and final rate increase for the refuse fund are the bulky item pickup rate. They're having a rate increase of $7.50 per item for the first item, and then $4 per additional item after that. So the first rate item would go from $12.50 to $20 per item, and then the additional item would go from $6 to $10 per item starting July 1st. We're expecting this would generate about $7,000 annually to cover, again, those same kind of expenses, the increased cost of fuel, equipment, and labor that we're seeing. At the last increase, this is an incorrect comment. I don't think that this was increased in 23. I think this has probably been some time. And then here kind of lays out the whole fund together for refuse, showing the revenues and expenses projected going forward. No major spikes in there that we're seeing in some of the other funds. Moving on to landfill, the One fee increase suggested for landfill fund is a minimum tipping fee increase and rate increase of $7 per visit for Iowa City residents and $7.50 for non-Iowa City residents. This would take the rate up to $14 per visit for Iowa City residents and $15 for non-Iowa City residents. We would expect this to generate about $150,000 annually to cover the cost of equipment and labor. Let's see, and this last was increased in FY 2020. Here's that graphical explanation of expected revenues and expenses going forward. The large expenses that you're seeing in FY 23 and FY 24 are largely for CIP projects. So FY 23 is the landfill cell, and then 24 is the landfill equipment building replacement. So that's why those two expense years are substantially higher. Then the stormwater fund is next. Rate increase of 50 cents per equivalent residential unit per month for the stormwater utility fee, increasing it from $5 to $5.50 per month for single residential properties and from $2.50 to $3 per month for multi-residential properties. Expecting to generate approximately $175,000 annually to cover increased costs of equipment and labor. The last increase done for stormwater was in 2020. And then, again, that graphical explanation of the revenues and expenses going forward projected, fairly static. There's some slight jumps in 24 and 26 for different CIP projects, but nothing super significant. And then the final fee increases that we'll go through are in the parking fund. Expecting a rate increase of $5 per month for permit revenue. So starting with the monthly ramp parking, that would increase from $85 to $90 per month, paid monthly, and then a similar increase then if you're paying annually. All day surface lot parking lot permits would go from $65 to $70. Similarly, an increase if paid annually. The monthly off-hour surface parking permit goes from $59 to $63. This would also include an annual moped, scooter, and motorcycle permit, increasing from $90 to $95 per year. We would expect this to generate about $108,000 annually to cover increased costs of equipment and labor within the parking fund. The last parking permit fee increase was done in FY 2017. And then in this graph, you can see, again, the same revenues and expenses projected out. The slight uptick in FY 24 is going to be for a CIP project and Tower Place drainage modifications. So those are all of the individual increases by fund. And then here it kind of lays out what the minimum monthly utility bill might look like for a resident, showing the current rate. We would expect about the minimum monthly being $44.83. Then with all of these fee rates included in factoring them in would go up to $47.83. And this is for just like a regular resident. And then we also included what a monthly discounted utility bill might look like with these same rate increases. So going from $14.52 to $15.39 as a minimum monthly discounted bill. Questions?
Thank you. Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If online, please raise your hand. Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion? Could I get a motion to give first consideration?
So moved. Alter.
Second, Thomas.
All right, council discussion.
It's always tough to do utility increases, especially when we know people are facing rising costs, but we are facing rising costs too. And I think, are all of these in enterprise funds? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so, these are funds that by our policies are self-sustaining, and so in order to, pay for the increases in labor and fuel and equipment and materials, we have to raise rates. I'm grateful we're doing it incrementally and would rather see these small increases, a couple years in a row rather than big jumps.
The other thing I appreciated was that last slide, that minimum monthly discount, and our utility discount program. For eligible Iowa City utility customers, they can receive a discount of 60% of the minimum water and sewer charges, 60% of the monthly storm water charge, and 75% of the refuse, recycling, and organics charges each month. And that's why we saw such a significant small amount there. So, roll call, please.
Dunn?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We are on to item number 10B, proposed conveyance of an underground utility easement to MidAmerican Energy Company. Resolution approving the conveyance of an underground utility easement to MidAmerican Energy Company across Auditor's Parcel 2001020. I'm going to open the public hearing and welcome Scott.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Scott Sovers, Assistant City Engineer. This item is for the conveyance of a non-exclusive electric easement to MidAmerican Energy within the city's property, generally located northeasterly of the Thornberry Dog Park within the peninsula. The approximate location of the easement is outlined in red on the slide. It's important to note that this is a part of a collaborative project between the city and MidAmerican Energy to provide a secondary power feed to the city's peninsula well field. I know it was short, but that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Don't hear any. Thank you. All right. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If online, raise your hand. If in person, come forth. Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Burgess.
Second, Alter.
Council discussion. Roll call, please.
Harmson?
Was there discussion?
I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say no.
Oh, no.
My bad.
Sorry. Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Dunn?
Gotta be a yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10C, Hickory Hill Park Shelter and Restrooms. Resolution approving project manual and estimate of cost for the construction of the Hickory Hill Park Shelter and Restroom project. Establishing amount of bid, security to accompany each bid, directing city clerk to post notice to bidders, and fixing time and place for receipt of bids. I'm going to open the public hearing. And welcome, Julie.
Hi, Julie Seidel Johnson, Director of Parks and Recreation. This is a repeat. You saw this a few months ago. It's packaged with our other summer projects for this summer. Due to some issues with the bidding, we're rebidding it. So this is the north entrance of Hickory Hill Park off Conklin Street. It is replacing the current shelter and restroom that is there. Current condition, this is the last of these older versions of the shelter with connected restrooms. And what we'll be doing is making it into two separate buildings. One will be down here. The restroom will be moved closer to the parking lot area and will include storage area for the Friends of Hickory Hill for their volunteer efforts and the equipment they keep there. And this one shows the shelter and the restroom and the type of shelter which we have in several of the other parks. So happy to answer any questions.
Hearing none, thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If online, please raise your hand. If in person, come forth. Seeing no one at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Burgess.
Second, Alter.
Council discussion. Roll call, please.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10D, 2023 Go Bonds bidding procedure. Resolution directing the advertisement for sale of $9,655,000 general obligation bond series 2023 and approving electronic bidding procedures and distribution of preliminary official statement. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved. Done.
Second, Alter.
And we're going to welcome Jacqueline back.
All right, Jacqueline Flegel, Assistant Finance Director, back. So this is just the next step in approving the city's general obligation bonds to fund our CIP plan for the year. This resolution approves the advertisement of the 9.6 million GO bonds and the sale document, otherwise known as our preliminary official statement. This document is what it gets sent out to all the potential bidders that for the city's bonds. The resolution also approves the procedures used to bid on the bonds. This sale will happen May 2nd during the morning, and then in the evening, we will bring back the results of the bidding for your guys' approval.
Great, thank you. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand online. And if you're in the audience, come forth. Seeing no one. Council discussion. Roll call, please.
Teague?
Yes?
Thomas?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10E, contract to analyze racial disparities in traffic stops. Resolution approving a contract with the University of Iowa to analyze racial disparities in traffic stop. Could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Don, seconded by Taylor. And welcome, Chief Liston.
Dustin Liston, Chief of Police. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a resolution to enter into agreement with the University of Iowa Public Policy Center to continue our traffic study. And the Iowa City Police Department has been collecting data on traffic stops since 1999, and in 2004, the University of Louisville produced a study studying the traffic stops in the calendar year of 2002. And one of their recommendations was to continue conducting those studies. And in 2006, we entered in an agreement with Dr. Chris Barnum from St. Ambrose University, and he conducted those studies from 2006 to 2020, the last of which was published in 2021 and is currently on our website. So the department continues to seek the most effective research-backed methods to analyze demographic data on traffic stops with the goal of identifying any racial disparities. The University of Iowa Public Policy Center has proposed a research-informed traffic study that implements several strategies that will bolster the current understanding of racial disparities in Iowa City traffic stops. The goal of the study is to present a holistic, comprehensive evaluation intended to complement past analysis of Iowa City traffic stop disparities. This traffic study will support the department's continued commitment to eliminating racial profiling, heightening awareness of implicit bias, and building trust and respect between law enforcement and all communities and persons in Iowa City. And working with the University of Iowa Public Policy Center additionally supports the Iowa City Police Department's desire to work with community partners and invest in local collaborations. And with me tonight, I have Dr. Ethan Rogers from the Public Policy Council, or Public Policy Center, if you have any questions of him. And I'll take any questions as well.
One of the questions I have, or perhaps the only question I have, is as you noted that the study will support commitment to eliminating racial profiling, heightened awareness of implicit bias, and building trust and respect. Within those categories, does the work and the analysis and the takeaways lead to actual action items within the department?
Absolutely. We've been doing this with Dr. Barnum for going on 15 years now, and that's one of the things we cover in every annual evaluation with individual officers. It's also influenced our training. It's influenced the policy, our bias-based policing policy that we use. This research does influence all of those decisions.
And one other question, and perhaps it might also apply for you, Doctor, is what's going to be, I don't know, different, heightened, emphasized more? What is IPP going to be able to add to this particular kind of study?
Yeah, I think he can probably answer that better than I can, but we think it's expanding on what we are currently doing. Times have changed, certainly over the last couple of years. Much more research has been done. Some of the things Dr. Barnum were doing were kind of groundbreaking at the time, and research keeps improving, and I think that's some of the things we're looking for with the Public Policy Center.
Thank you. Assistant Research Scientist Ethan Rogers, working at the University of Iowa Public Policy Center. First off, just if I can, thank you to Chief Liston for reaching out to discuss a potential project in this regard. To answer your question specifically, one big contribution that we aim to identify is a thorough description, first off, fundamentally about traffic enforcement itself, to try to reveal and show the public exactly what traffic enforcement looks like and has looked like at least over the past decade. So that longitudinal examination is also going to be centered to this focus of the project, in large part because many of the previous proposals are snapshots in the year. This is to hopefully give us a guidance in terms of where we've been and where we're going in terms of disparities. The other big contribution is looking into the actual analyses of the racial disparities. So as we propose, we're using multiple analytical strategies in large part because there is a lot of debate, even in the academic community, about the best way to assess disparities in traffic enforcement. So our hope is to, by showing multiple different strategies, and even within strategies, multiple different approaches, that we can kind of give that comprehensive look.
Thank you very much.
Will your look be just at traffic, or will you look at other sorts of interactions as well?
For this project, we are focusing specifically on traffic enforcement. Other types of calls for service or pedestrian stops can be examined in other projects, but for this, we are focusing specifically on traffic.
Thank you.
And what detail in terms of the location of the stop?
Yeah, so we're just becoming familiar ourselves with what the stop data can include. Right now, the geographic indicator is those contact zones. So they're a relatively large portion of the Iowa City geography. But we're hoping as we move forward to be able to get some more precise geographic indicators there.
I have a question just about the longitudinalness. I think, Chief, you mentioned that the last time the St. Ambrose study was done was 2020, and we have the results from 21. Did you continue to collect the same data throughout that time period?
Right. Dr. Barnum made some suggestions on data collection, and that's one of the things we'll work with the university to. We can change which data we collect, but we certainly maintained that data collection. The last study Dr. Barnum did was 2019 and 20. He did both of those at the same time, and that was published in 2021. But we continue to maintain that data collection.
So then I just have a really nerdy follow-up question. From doing ride-alongs, I've watched the officers kind of input the data based on the questionnaire that we have. Any concerns with how kind of like the software side of that for the officers will be implemented? Do we have the tools to smoothly do that?
We do, and that is something that we do tweak from time to time. Someone decides, typically a researcher says, hey, it would be nice if you guys captured this data, and we can amend our software to capture that.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Anyone from the public like to address this topic? If online, please raise your hand. If in person, please come forth. I'm going to welcome Noah online.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Yes, welcome. Okay, hello. It's not a whole lot to say, but just like, this is another annoying thing is on the agenda, you don't list the price of this being estimated to be roughly $70,000. It'd be nice if we have that easily accessible on the agenda, especially when unless there's a change since the last meeting I mentioned, we had the printed out agendas. You don't have all the details of the agenda items. You just have what's available online unless you click on the hyperlink, and you have to click on the hyperlink to see the cost of this. It'd be nice to have on your descriptions on the agenda just say how much it costs, just like most other items have that cost. It'd be nice to just an accessibility thing to do that. Another thing is sure, this study is nice, I guess, but like what's the point? We should just not have cops doing traffic stops, and period. So there's no chance for them to, start murdering and brutalizing people like they commonly do throughout the nation on traffic stops. I mean, that just stop sending armed agents of the state after people on traffic stops. That's the easiest solution to stop any racial disparities, is to stop having armed agents of the state going after people for traffic. I mean, that's an incredibly easy concept, and that's something that you should do. You should set up a department that is not under the cops, that deals with traffic issues. So you don't have to be sending armed agents of the state with the ability to kill on every single traffic stop, which is what happens when the cops doing it. There's always an opportunity for those cops to get trigger happy, or start getting baton happy, or taser happy, or pepper spray happy, or handcuff happy. So, I mean, like, do all the data you want, but like, that's not when you just don't have cops. If you want to like solve the problem, stop having cops have people interacting with traffic incidents. That's not a difficult concept. Do any of you not understand that? That's the question. I would like you to respond to that question. Even if it's a denial answer question, I'd like you to do that. Hello, anyone there?
We're here. Anything else?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So you heard my questions? Hello, did you hear my question?
Noah, you know that you can speak to council at this time.
I love it when you say that, because you can't answer questions, you just choose not to. That's a choice on your part, and you should, make better choices.
Thank you. Anyone online or in the audience want to address this topic? Seeing no one, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Thomas?
Yes.
Alter?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Harmson?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Item number 11, council appointments. This is 11A. We have Parks and Recreation Commission. One vacancy to fill an unexpired term upon appointment through December 31st, 2024. There is a gender balance requirement, one male. Council discussion.
I just want to kick it off by saying I was incredibly impressed by the number of people who applied and how qualified everyone is. This is really impressive, and thank you everyone who's applied, because I was incredibly impressed.
And just again to clarify, we have to fill this position with a male.
Correct, and there are 4 identified here.
I would put forth Jordan Brown. I did reach out to make sure that this person was still interested, and he said he was.
I would put out Mitch Lingo.
I also liked Mitch Lingo. I think what I liked about his statements was that he really stressed on the multi-generational benefit of our park system, and I appreciated that.
Someone that had, I believe, been up for this once before is Aaron Broge, and I liked that he has background in Parks and Rec. He has a BA in sports admin and recreation. He has a couple of years of county parks maintenance experience, supervisory experience in public park development. So I would put forth his name.
Well, there's...
But I also like Jordan.
Yeah, there's quite a few people. Well, I don't know.
I don't know if it's relevant. We all got an email from Mitch Lingo indicating he's running for school board as well.
Correct. Yes.
I would just say that Aaron and Jordan were the 2 that had jumped out at me as well. So, out of many good applicants.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Jordan is my preference at this time.
Although I'd noticed that Jordan was also interested in the Board of Adjustment and said that that was actually his preference, was the Board of Adjustments.
I missed that. Thank you.
That is why I reached out to him to make sure he was
Oh.
still interested in serving on Parks and Rec, so, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think great applicants. I mean, I'll throw my name behind Aaron for now just to see where we land. So we have Aaron with, I'm going to say 2 people, Jordan with 2 people, and Mitchell with 2 people.
I don't have strong feelings. They're all good applicants.
Yeah. This is true.
I guess I could go with Aaron as well. Or was I one of the 2? I wasn't sure who you were counting.
No, you weren't in
Okay.
one of the 2.
Put me down as the 3rd then.
Megan and Bruce, yeah.
I didn't have you listed anywhere. Because you like,
Because I like 2. I
you
wasn't
like
sure
2,
why.
yeah.
We've heard that portion of the note.
Yes. So we have 3 for Aaron, 2 for Jordan, 2 for Mitchell. So we have 7 people somewhere. Anyone who want to move their support?
I could probably go with Aaron Brokey?
Okay. So we have a majority for Aaron Broad. Could I get a motion to appoint?
So moved. Done.
Second, Harmson.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 12, announcements of vacancies new. 12A, Airport Commission, 1 vacancy to fill a 4-year term, July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2027. Community Police Review Board, 1 vacancy to fill a 4-year term, July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2027. Historic Preservation at Large, 2 vacancies to fill a 3-year term, July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Historic Preservation Commission Longfellow, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term, July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Historic Preservation Commission Northside, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term, July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Housing and Community Development Commission, 3 vacancies to fill a 3-year term, July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Library Board of Trustees, 2 vacancies to fill a 6-year term, July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2029. Planning and Zoning Commission, 2 vacancies to fill a 5-year term, July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2028. Planning and Zoning Commission, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term upon appointment through June 30th, 2026. There is correspondence included in the package, which we will accept in a second. Public Art Advisory Committee, 2 vacancies to fill, 1 at large and 1 art or design professional to fill a 3-year term, July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. Applications must be received by 5 p.m. Tuesday, May 30th, 2023. Can I get a motion to accept the correspondence?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Taylor, seconded by Burgess. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item number 13, announcements of vacancies previous. 13A, Senior Center Commission, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Applications must be received by 5 p.m. Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. Historic Preservation Commission, East College Street, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Historic Preservation Commission, Jefferson Street, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, Woodlawn Avenue, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Vacancies will remain open until filled. We're at item number 14, which is City Council information.
Getting to that time of year, we got lots of events going on, so I'll just list a few. This Thursday evening at 5:30 p.m. at the Iowa City Public Library is the Community Police Review Board public forum. A couple people have as of their last meeting, a few people had emailed in questions, but people are also welcome to attend and ask questions of the commission at that time. And they're going to include a discussion of the police department values, as well as just general information about the commission. The Energy Blitz is this Saturday. I don't even know what neighborhood it's in. Creekside neighborhood. Thank you, Rachel. And rain date would be May 6th, but people in the Creekside neighborhood should be excited about volunteers knocking on their doors to give them amazing tools to save up to like $75 a year in energy and divert 500,000 pounds of things.
Stuff.
Greenhouse gases. It's late. I'm sorry. I had it in my brain. Then on Sunday, that's Saturday, then on Sunday is the South District Team Up to Cleanup event. So walk-up volunteers are totally welcome if you're not signed up. Folks are meeting to sign in and kind of get their assignments and go throughout the South District neighborhood to beautify. So you can anything from picking up trash along streets and trails to spiffing up some garden beds and working in the edible forest in Weatherby Park. So if folks want to meet on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. At the mural on the backside of Faith Academy is where we will be.
And actually, I think that the like staging zone is like going towards Broadway and Sandusky at the entrance of
the south end.
Yeah, thank you. Directions. The south end of the South District.
And then the 27th, there's a really cool another climate thing where Jane Wilch and Sarah Gardner will be doing their Speaking Of, which is normally a Zoom event, in person at Big Grove. I think that's in the evening on the 27th.
Hearing no more announcements, we'll move on to item number 15, which is reports from our city staff, city manager's office.
Nothing tonight.
City attorneys.
Nothing for me, thank you.
And city clerk office.
Well, Laura stole my thunder with the CPRB forum, so nothing from me.
All right. Item number 16, could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, Taylor.
Moved by Berger, seconded by Taylor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Have a good night.